Can Morty talk?
Wait for it.
Cause fuck me, right? It doesn't
Right.
matter. I'm just kidding.
And just like a red, white, and blue phoenix rising from the ashes of political bipartisanship, we are back to Salt of the Streets podcast.
This is Saturday, if I can get my phone to work, Saturday, June 12th, 1:29 p.m., episode 110.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Salt of the Streets podcast, your one and only source for social and political commentary on all the social and political commentary on all the weekly news, pop culture, and sports that you can handle. The best part about the whole deal, it's all built from the ground up for people like you and me, the everyday normal person. So come down and join us as we discuss life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and continue our endless endeavors to bridge the gap between people and information. As always, we are your hosts. I am Colin.
I am Donovan.
And today, once again, we are joined by the man, the legend himself, Larry DIXON. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Thanks for having me, guys. So it's always good to come on. I get super hyped for these. I'll probably get too excited for these, so happy to be here.
I'm glad you're too excited.
Happy to
because,
have you.
I mean, I've been looking forward to this since last Thursday when we first talked, when we were out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, you guys had a nice little camping escapade or a getaway. Is that a sabbatical? I have never
We
known.
stayed at a place called the Sun Village Resort.
Indeed.
And we stayed in a double-wide mobile home trailer.
Okay.
And
Right out of the 1950s.
yeah, it
Complete
was
with furniture.
It was not bad. It was poorly constructed in the way that it was windier than fuck. And when the wind did blow, the house
Yeah.
shook a little bit, and you could hear it throughout the whole house. It was
yeah.
pretty crazy. So
Yeah.
we did
So-
a lot of fishing.
Why do you guys go there? You could encounter killers. Theoretically, I feel like that's where all the killers are.
Why stay packing? So
yeah. It's like
Yeah,
with everybody
you know,
going on that trip,
yeah,
anybody that
two-
tries anything would have at least 20 rounds in them within the first half
yeah,
second.
2 of the 3 of the people in that house carry all of the time, and then we
That's
were
right.
with a bunch of other people, and probably 2 or 3 of them were carrying all the time. So,
Oh, yeah.
you know, it was a pretty. Of 9 people, I'm gonna say at least 6 had guns
nice.
at any given time. So, it was
I have news in
relatively
that
safe.
department before we dive into everything. I'm getting a
Oh.
handgun.
the one from your brother.
Yeah, we're going to
Nice.
do the whole sale and go to the
Swap
FFL
ski.
and all that.
There you go.
and all that good stuff. So I'm going to have
Yeah.
my first open carry handgun very,
Open
very
carry?
soon. Oh yeah, I'm all about open carry, bro.
Really?
I got a guy in my office that open carries all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of
Bold.
a proponent of it.
Seen a lot of people get just have their gun ripped right out of their holster.
Oh, yeah.
because they're not-
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in this. As soon as I get it, I'm going to start the process and get the concealed stuff going on.
Yeah,
and
if
all that.
you-
But I'm
if-
just excited about getting a handgun for the first time.
if
It'll
you're
be nice.
open carrying, in my opinion, right? And I've only been
Yeah.
in guns for a couple years, so I'm.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, if you're open carrying in anything less than a level 2 holster, then you're an idiot.
Yeah, you don't want to buy that $12.
No,
You know.
they're even the Kydex one, even the one that I have or the one that I have in my battle belt, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't use just to open carry because the only thing in that Kydex is active retention. All you
Yeah.
have to do is just come and pull it out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you want some kind of.
I want something with like a
Latch or
Safari
safety
Land
or-
or something like that you got to press the button down to move the fold to then you can draw it. I don't want anything that you can just pull straight out of the
Yeah.
holster if it's open carry. I don't want anybody
No.
to be able to get to that at
And I
any
will
given
say,
time.
at least in that guy's defense who does carry all the time, yeah, it's got like 3 or 4 little button things on there.
Yeah.
That if he needed that thing in a hurry, he couldn't get it. Let's
Which
put it that
is
way.
another problem.
Right?
That's why I bring up like the level 2. So level 2 retention is like a holster, like similar to this, but
Yeah.
it will have like a flip that goes over the back of the gun, right?
I
Flip
love
that
when we
goes
bring
over the
guns
back
out.
of the gun, and then like a little button right here. So when you draw it, you're gonna press down on the button, the flip folds forward, and then you can pull the gun out.
That's legit.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
that's police officers, level 2 retention
Yeah.
holsters, like that's all that type of shit. Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you're open carrying and anything less than that, you're asking to have that shit snatched from
That's
you
a
in a
problem.
convenience store and get a shot with your own fucking pistol.
Old gun snatch would be coming up.
Stupid.
See, I feel like only time I ever saw him was in Texas because, like, in Washington, I was never around guns, and in New York, I was definitely never around guns
yeah.
at all. But like in Texas, I was indoctrinated. Like we were out in clubs, and like guys would just have it out, and like no one would ever. Like I feel like other people would beat you up if you try to reach for somebody else's gun.
Yeah,
It's a
definitely.
great culture down there.
Definitely depends. In Texas, you're less likely probably to have it snatched from you. In Washington, you only see, excuse me, even in my lifetime, We've only seen a handful of people open carrying here. It just doesn't really happen, you know. The amount of dirty looks that you get is probably
Yeah.
not worth it on
Yeah.
a daily basis.
Dude, the
And
amount
then-
of dirty looks I get for just not wearing a mask,
Not worth it.
it just
No.
pisses me
But
off.
like, that's a super interesting thing because you guys said it. You guys are changing the rules.
Yeah.
So now, like, masks, we got vaccines. Like, so people, I've always heard that like people like if you're not wearing a mask, like they still get mad even though you're vaccinated. Like, right. I'm super comfortable now because Joe Biden said it too. So now Joe Biden and Donald Trump have agreed. The end of May, everybody who wanted it would have access to it. Like now you can just go in, like walks into Walmart. They're like, "You want a COVID shot? We're doing them right here." I'm just like,
Yeah, signs everywhere. I was in the mall yesterday, and there was one that you could go into, like J.C. Penney, and there
Yeah.
was a vaccination center in J.C. Penney that you could go there and get shot up.
They still have a J.C.
One
Penney?
day.
Just
J.C.
kidding.
Penney's still there.
I
Sears
That's
is
it.
gone, but
Gotta-
J.C. Penney's there.
That's right.
it's
Still
the
hanging
OG
in there.
right there. So then, like, so people get mad even though they're vaccinated and you guys aren't wearing a mask, like even though they don't know that you're technically vaccinated.
I haven't had one interaction since then, which makes me feel stupid for not having just not worn a mask since the beginning.
Right.
But I also saw, like I said, I saw a bunch of people go into businesses, and the person there at the door whose job it was to make sure you're wearing a mask wouldn't bitch at you about it. They'll just give you a mask. Like,
Yeah.
and then when I went to King's Walk, I was sitting there with Trenton. We're at the table, and there was a family of like 4 adults and 3 or 4 kids that came in, and the woman admittedly was a huge bitch to the woman who worked at King's Walk, and then refused
That
to
is
put a
such a
mask
great
on
story.
when she was
Yeah.
there. The woman who worked at King's Walk was like, "You have to wear a mask." I don't know what to tell you. That's just what we're doing here, you know. And I've never, from the beginning, said this 1,000 times. From the beginning, my issue has always been the governmental aspect of it. I don't like the government telling me I have to do it. I had no problem going into a private business and them saying our jam is you're wearing a mask. That's fine. If I want to shop here, if I want to eat here, I'll wear a mask. That's exactly what I did at King's Walk. Yeah. So this woman is like, "Oh, we're not wearing a mask. We're all vaccinated." The woman is like, at work, works at King's Walk, is like, "That's fine. You have to wear a mask if you want to eat here." And she, the woman and her family says, "Well, then you're not getting our money," and turns around and walks out. The woman who works at King's Walk doesn't give a fuck. She
No,
doesn't care.
this is-
Then leave. Then fucking
Exactly.
leave. Like, I don't. Who
She don't get
cares?
paid enough to worry about that.
Thank you. And she's an employee. Like I don't like if you go into an owner and you're like berating an owner, cool. Like, but employees, like a lot of these, that's where you are. Is where I'm just like, hey, like the employee's coming up, like I don't know what he wants, but I'm not gonna make his day hard. Especially like let's be real.
Yeah.
If I see a job that I would never want to do, like if you work at Walmart, super cool. Oh no.
Oh, she's
no.
back.
There it is.
There it
if
is.
you work at Walmart, like I'm super like good for you.
I'm
I would
sorry.
never want to work at Walmart. Yeah, right. I would never want to work at Walmart. I couldn't work at fast food because I need all the product. And so when I look at it, like I'm just like I'm not gonna make your job harder when I already don't want that job. So like I just left it alone. I'm a big inertia guy. Like I'm gonna coast without a mask unless someone actively tells me to put it on.
Yeah.
And as long as you work there or you're affiliated, like I never get approached. I'm too big, right? No one's ever gonna come to me and be like,
Yes.
hey, you. And so like I've never ever been approached. I've never understood
Come
that.
at
But
me,
someone
bro.
had. It would be like I would just say something. I don't even know if I'd be mean. I think I just walked by him. But
And
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't take enough advantage of that over the last year of like people don't like to look at me, you know? Most of the time if I'm focused, my eyebrows are down a little bit, they're not interested in interaction. It's not worth whatever they're going to do, you know? I should have used that more of just don't fuck with me. I got a mustache, I got eyebrows, don't fuck with me, like just let me get my things, you know? But
100%. And I feel like I saw it during like Black Lives Matter. Like people, I didn't realize how much people needed to be a part of a group.
Oh yeah.
Because like I'd never seen, and like part of it's because I'm in Oklahoma, different kind of lifestyle. But like there's other marches, but like I've never been approached. No one's ever said anything, and I think it's literally because like generally I don't ever go where large people congregate. Right? I really don't do concerts. I don't really go to like sporting events because I'd rather watch it on my TV, so I get drunk in the privacy of my home.
Hell yeah.
And so like I've never been a place where like people could really like gang up on me, like the mob rule could like win. You know, I've never seen that. So that's been. I always wonder with you guys because like I see stuff in Washington and like, you know, obviously the news is what it is. But if I just watch the news, I would think you guys are fighting World War III up there. Like you guys have a civil war secession up there, and you guys are actively like going after each other and ostracizing all cops.
Give it time.
why I will tell you, I noticed a marked difference when we were in Eastern Washington from Western Washington.
Oh,
like in the
Different
people
country, dude.
was a whole different place, and they were very open about like, yeah, fuck Western Washington, like we will secede, like we don't give a shit.
Oh, yeah.
And I haven't. You know, it's almost the opposite here, where some people are like, "Fuck them, let them go," like we don't care. But then most other people are like, "You can't do that. We're all one. We're all together. You're not allowed to just leave." You know, so it was an interesting deal. It was very weird. I didn't consider the whole time we were gone. Didn't consider a mask until we were at the weed store.
Yeah.
Like I went to walk in and I was like, I don't even have one because I didn't even consider
even
for a
bring one.
moment, having to wear one. So yeah, I had to like get one from Jake. Luckily, he had one in his truck, so I could fucking buy some weed. You know, need him a weed. Yeah,
I was chiefing too much, man.
It was a strange. Bro, I was too. I was that whole fucking weekend.
Right.
No,
there's very little better than sitting on a boat in the lake when it's beautiful, sunny, warm, fishing pole in the water, drinking some Budweiser, ice cold Budweiser, and smoking on. Yeah, it's good times.
It was awesome.
Oh. Yeah, we did that in Florida. Like I said, we went on the boating trip when we were down there. One, you talk about not needing a mask. That was I evolved in Florida, but like. I'm learning to love it, but like we did, like no one has masks, no one asked for masks. Like people, like the workers. This is the first time I saw workers not wearing masks either. It's like they don't make their workers wear masks. So like I saw my servers, my waiter's face, and I was just like, oh my god, like that you don't have a mask on. And so like, Florida's getting back to normal. Like, could you imagine a world though? Just because again, you guys being the people I talk about politics the most, Rob DeSantis, right? Florida has about the same amount of people as California, right?
I mean, future President Ron DeSantis, is that?
Listen. Listen, okay, listen.
We'll see.
We'll see. It's like crazy because I'm going to Florida, so selfishly, I'm just like, maybe we just build a wall, and then like
it wouldn't be a very big one, to just cut Florida off.
100%. People think like Florida's like the like people think Florida man like is this big myth that people actually perpetuate, but
it's just like one area in like the northern panhandle where Florida man lives.
Where people
the rest
are
of it
crazy.
Is like basically Little Havana, and like it's a wild place. You got all sorts of stuff. You got the Everglades, you got Key West, and then you got Florida man way up there.
100%. He's really their version of Bigfoot. I really think it's Bigfoot's cousin. Migrated down. He's just shorter, just a little bit more lovable.
It's like a deer in the South. It's smaller. It's hot, you know? Yeah, so Florida man is just a slightly less hairy, more slim 100%. Sasquatch. That totally makes sense.
He got lost and like I got off I just sweated for 4 days straight. But like, so there's no way he keeps the hair. Like you just sweat out 4 days straight. But like, could you imagine a world where Rob DeSantis, he won by 30,000 votes? Like I was just like looking at it, reading about it, kind of looking at it. Like, could you imagine a world where Florida also has a Democratic governor and like the whole, who's the dude in California? I don't even remember who this dude is.
Newsom?
Yeah, Newsom. Where Newsom and Rob DeSantis don't have the contrast. Like, because I felt like it was so important for Florida just to contrast. Like, you really could do whatever you want to. Like, we really actually got to pit states against states. I just couldn't imagine the world with 30,000 votes because it's not a lot of people. Like, when you have like what 30-something million.
It's less than the population of Bremerton.
100%, right? Like everyone in Bremerton accidentally just doesn't hit their alarm, and all of a sudden Rob DeSantis isn't in. And I just like, and now he's like on the way to being president. I think that's so interesting. I've been thinking about that so often because like I think about like what makes someone successful, and I've been thinking about it. Plus like being down in Florida, guys, I can't express it. Like it's so amazing. I love it.
And here you were talking about seeing your waiter's face. Here I almost feel like when you don't wear your mask, people almost look surprised at you.
Yeah.
You know, like they're almost surprised that you're not wearing a mask. And in the employees in stores, it's probably like half and half because it's all the same for everybody. Like if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear one. And so some of the employees are not, some of them are. I don't know. There's got to be more people vaccinated than not wearing masks. There has to be. Because of just the numbers they're touting and, how awesome it is. And they're like, it's so great. Like, so many people are getting the vaccine. Then why is there fucking no one wearing a mask? Like, or like, why is there no one not wearing a mask?
Yeah.
If so many people have the vaccine. So there's got to be a shitload of people that are still wearing a mask even though they have the vaccine.
Well, yeah,
which
because
seems odd.
they don't want to put off
be mistaken as a conservative.
As a conservative. Whatever David Hogg said, that in waste of space.
Yeah.
And Seattle made the news this past week by being the first major city to hit 70%, and they were super excited about that. 70% of the population was vaccinated. We did it, but then you go to Seattle and everybody's still wearing a mask.
That's what I'm saying. And like in theory, right? Again, correct me if I'm wrong.
Jay Inslee's still wearing a mask.
Okay, That's I haven't liked him for a long time. Before all this, like when he tried to run for when he was in the presidency, I was like, I can't believe you represent our state. Like I hated everything he said.
He's such a joke.
Oh, the only person I hate more than him is Bill de Blasio.
Yeah.
Did you know, this is my fun fact about Jay Inslee's presidential bid. Did you know while he was running for president, he spent upwards of $1.5 million of taxpayer money on increased overtime pay, travel expenses for state patrol and things like that, and never paid that money back?
Oh, weird. Are you saying like the rules aren't the same for all of us across the board?
Yeah.
Just as security for his own travel to run his presidential bid. That's what that money is for. Never talked about it. Never paid it back.
Nope.
Never anything. Just almost $2 million.
That's because the population of the state, we openly give him that money because we're so proud of his bid to run.
Yeah.
Emperor Inslee all the way, baby.
And it's insane how like that just like because like I hate. And I don't live there, so I don't know if I hate the wrong word, but it doesn't feel good. Like I'm learning that from you guys. What happened to our media? Like that feels like a story. Like that again. I can't write. I have a face for radio, really. So
you're doing yourself a disfavor.
No, but like I just like anyone could have said it. Anyone anywhere could have been like, hey, if you said insert politician misuse funds, that should be a frontline story. Don't care what you're doing. Like I just like what are we doing? Like I thought we were gonna have I was hopeful, right? Like everybody, the panic in 2016 was where I was now, right? Because I was just like, okay, Joe Biden's coming in. The media have exposed themselves as just political pundits for Democrats. I was just like, you know what? It's gonna be fine. They're gonna call the balls and strikes for Joe Biden, and like with the latest being Kamala Harris and the border, like
just don't come. Do not come. Do not come.
We've been to the border.
100%. But she also hasn't been to Europe. Yo, when she said she hasn't been to Europe, I thought it was a meme. I thought it was a joke. I saw it on Instagram. I was just like, okay, what
somebody
is this?
doctored this, please, right?
100%. And then I YouTube it, and YouTube obviously is where I go to get all my information. And like for that to be real, and I was just like, no one said anything. I was just like, this feels good. Like. If she just stopped there on a plane, just think about how long it would take you when you have a private jet, right? That could fly you anywhere. Everybody on your team's vaccinated. You're vaccinated. You've been traveling, but they're like, well, we're going to Guatemala first. I'm just like, listen, like in the same way Ted Cruz shouldn't have traveled to Mexico while Texas was going through a disaster, you should go to the border.
Yes.
It's the same thing to me.
Well, and it's odd because they're even going to Mexico next and not going to the border. That's even the next stop is Mexico, but they're not going to stop at the border.
That's
For what fucking reason are you not going to the border on your way home?
On the way.
You have to go over it again. You have to fly over it a second time to get home.
At least look down or something? No.
George Bush's Katrina flyover. Just like, yeah, that looks really fucked up down there. That's not good. There's at least a dozen people outside in a fence. That's no good.
Oh, man.
100%. And then, I don't know. It's like dejecting. Like I tried to take. I told myself I'd take a politics hiatus, and then you guys asked me to come on, so I used you guys as a scapegoat to let me listen to more.
We're enablers.
It's all
100%. It's really just crack in my veins at this point. But, watching this whole thing play out, and she's like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. Like, you see how flabbergasted I get? Because
it's dirty.
No one can even ask the question. Like, what's the dude? The guy from NBC did. He was just like
Lester Holt.
He did. Good on him. He was just like, hey,
at least half a credit to Lester Holt for something.
He said the words at least. You know what I mean?
100%. Like
he didn't want to, but he said it.
Yeah.
Also, if I ever become famous, and I have when I become famous and I'm a billionaire, right, and I just have all these people, TMZ, following me, I'm hiring Jen Psaki to be my press person.
Oh, hard, yeah.
The spins, it's amazing. Like, I watch her just back out of everything. Joe Biden be like, hey, we actively don't want to do it. What Joe Biden meant was that it's something that we're thinking about taking a look at in our next meeting that we're possibly putting on the schedule, and we'll assess that when we get there. Next question. I'm just like, Holy Toledo.
What the
Like,
president meant was...
How did you say that?
I have a couple of really beautiful videos of Jen Psaki that we'll play today regarding the increased unemployment insurance and the way, whether or not that's negatively affecting the labor shortage. So I've got some really good videos of that. So
I'm excited. I'm ready. Because I get hot and heavy for economics here.
Fully edited and labeled on the double phone. So
hard,
my
yeah.
God. Yo, you guys are getting tech savvy. Listen, you guys are on the. Oh, what is that?
The double
you
phone.
haven't seen the double phone, bro?
Oh, dude. Okay.
Watch.
Insert ad for hashtag double phone.
It's full on double phone here. Let me get my second screen on here.
Wait,
Full on,
oh yeah.
Full on
Are you
double
not-
phone.
Are you not iPhone anymore?
No.
Oh, he graduated.
No, this is an LG, and so I can run two apps completely independent from each other at the exact same time, like it's nobody's business.
Oh my God, that's how you know I don't use iMessaging
I can-
anymore. I didn't even know you had that.
I can swap.
Oh
them
my
with
God.
Look at that.
the game changer.
Oh yeah, it's legit. Look, you
Yes.
watch your HBO and take
It
notes.
folds all the way around,
What?
closes up completely.
It's legit.
I'm telling you. This
Yo,
is
I
how
like
I've been. Yeah, and I can, if I'm like talking to you guys on this screen here, and I'm reading an article here, there's a button on the conversation to just instantly screenshot this and pull it into the conversation. And I don't have to save it or anything, and I can just send it to you guys and then move on with my day.
My hands are getting sweaty.
I know this.
Okay.
This is,
Yeah,
this
it's
is
like it's
uncomfortable.
made to work with a stylus and everything. So like the note feature, I mean, it's
legit.
been incredible, and it's an Android, so the swipe function, it was designed on Android, so the ability to read and swipe text on the one screen, it's incredible.
Okay, well that's fair.
I feel so
Listen,
old now.
And this was the price. This second screen is technically
the case, right?
Yeah, it's technically an accessory, and so it's a case that the phone goes into. Here, I'll pop this out real quick. Just
Oh,
pop
so
it off.
it's not the phone. It's a case.
This is the phone.
Yeah, and it's designed for it.
This is the case, yeah. And so
It's
the
legit.
phone just slips in here, and then you have the second screen.
Yeah.
And
High
so
quality
these
8K
together
video.
are the price of the last gen iPhone.
Ugh. That's
iPhone's
ridiculous.
still better. So
If iPhone had a double screen phone, I would have got it,
Yeah.
but they don't.
it's too much screen for me. I just
Not
it's
enough.
too-
More.
On the topic of phones, real quick.
Yes.
and
Oh God.
I know if you've all been on YouTube, you're getting these commercials for that new Google phone, right?
Oh.
And they like to the ad basically says, like, oh yeah, no, it's got a built-in spam blocker and spam call blocker and like all these different things. And I'm going, so you're marketing this phone, knowing the fact that what you make money in is selling people's information to these people that then spam your phone.
Yeah.
But so they're making a phone
way out
that
is to buy a
slightly
phone from us.
circumvents that. It's like, so they're just,
I didn't
if
think
you
about
buy
that.
their
That's really
phone
funny.
and get on their plan, then they will just conveniently, they'll still sell all your data, but then you just don't get it on the back end because they know who they're selling it to, so they can block all that stuff
It's
for
the
you.
phone plan that can, Colin.
It's the phone plan that can.
So I'm super ignorant. So I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't know what the phone is because I have YouTube Premium. So I don't actually see.
Oh.
I don't get commercials on YouTube. I'm sorry.
Oh boy.
Google
'Cause I
had,
wa-
yeah, so Google has their own phone plan now.
Yep.
That you can, instead of having AT&T or whatever, you can get a phone plan through Google.
We can get Google Fi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they've made their own phones for a long time,
Yeah.
like the Google Pixel
Yeah,
and stuff
the
like
Pixel,
that. But
yep.
but now they have their own phone company, and so you can get your service through them and do all that shit. And so, like Colin is saying, they're saying that they have all built-in spam blockers and ad blockers and all this shit, which I didn't
Which
even
is good,
consider. Yeah, that's-
Because they're the ones that were
really
selling
funny.
that stuff anyway.
so they're getting all of your information anyway because you're buying the phone from them.
Yep.
That is hilarious.
I was highly offended the first time I saw that, and I was like, wait a minute. Alphabet is one of the worst perpetrators
Right.
of doing this, and now they're having you buy their service now that just slightly circumvents what they make money off of doing to you anyways.
And if you're doing the automatic diagnostics, like the option on your phone, then they're getting all that information
Oh, yeah.
all of the time anyway.
Yep.
of like what you're seeing, the apps that you're using, how well they're working.
You just don't
That
have
is
to deal with
so
the fallout.
fucking funny.
It's
that's
terrible.
so America. That's
Listen,
so America. That's
they-
awesome.
Pisses
They're
me
really
off.
they're copying our pharmaceutical industry. They're causing a problem and then fixing it with drugs.
Yep.
They're
It
the
is.
supplier
Awesome.
and the fixer.
Yep. They're the
is
supplier
the-
and the fixer. I love it. I never thought of it like that. It's the same thing.
That's awesome.
Google's gone big pharma, bro. Look out.
It's the only place else to go. I mean, with Jeff Bezos quitting Amazon and going to space, and Elon Musk going to space, like there's just like, listen. So you either go to space or you can continue growing your massive, 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 massive wealth.
Yeah. Well, at least our federal government is paying Jeff Bezos to go to space.
Thank
Our
God.
own senator, Maria Cantwell, which I won't use her moniker on YouTube, obviously. Yeah, she's the one that fought for that $10 billion to go to Blue Origin because she didn't like the fact that SpaceX undercut them by almost 100%. And so, like, well, we got to continue to make sure that
Slipped
there's
it into a
competition
funding
in the
bill,
space
yeah.
race. So here's $10 billion there, Bezos.
Wait. So we
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Don't try to think about it too hard.
Yes.
It'll break your brain.
Yeah.
Yep.
SpaceX would say with their bid was like $2 billion.
Yeah.
And the one for Blue Origin was like 12 or 15 billion dollars. And so obviously the federal government was like, SpaceX, or NASA. It was NASA that chose. NASA was
Yep.
like, get the fuck after it. We're scientists. Get to space. Maria Cantwell was like, oh no.
We can't do that.
Bezos though.
Yep.
Bezos.
so
Her state,
here,
too.
I just feel like this is my problem with taxes, right? As just a tax person, like everybody's like, well, why don't you want people to pay more in taxes? And it's because this, like,
That's why.
we still have NASA when two private companies have beat NASA, ultimately proving it to be null and void, right? Like we've now established that, hey, NASA, whatever you were the leader in, you're no longer the leader. So why haven't we cut them? Secondly, in a choice between like giving money, we chose to give money to Jeff Bezos, who then I guarantee you I could find the clip of her saying that Jeff Bezos should pay more in taxes. Well, you just took all the tax money that we're giving him more, and instead of taxing him more, you just gave him a grant.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like literally you're perpetuating so even if you taxed him more, you've literally just paid his tax bill.
And
By a lot.
you bet your ass if he comes up with losses at the end of the fiscal year, they're going to cover that shit.
100%.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
And it's just so I don't get it. Like I feel like, and this is what makes me want to do politics, because I feel like I could sit in a room and I can come up with a better budget.
The three of us could run an unbeatable campaign of politics.
Oh, yeah.
Oh God! I think we'd struggle on the campaign. Again, I don't know if we would campaign well. I really think we would have just a great caucus. So, like if the three of us
we
were
got
on there,
in.
yeah, it just when we get in, I think it's just gonna be lit.
What's the name of our
It's
caucus?
just going to be lit.
We got to
Oh,
come up with a
God.
dope name.
Yeah.
God, I don't know, like what the Freedom Fighters,
The Freedom Fighters. The Foo Fighters.
I'm pretty
believe
sure
that's
Foo
already
Fighters has been
taken.
I think it's already taken. I don't know. I'm terrible with names. I'm the least creative person in the world. Like literally the least creative person in the world. I've literally named almost everything I've ever touched after Atlas Shrugged, because that book changed my life. So like literally Atlas Tax and Accounting Tax Solution, my real estate companies, Atlas Real Estate Holdings. So like literally like Atlas Flippers is flipping. I get emotionally attached to things and I never deviate. So I shouldn't come up with the name.
So, real quick, have you read The Fountainhead?
Yeah. Oh, I've read all. I know.
So,
I think
Atlas Shrugged or Fountainhead?
Atlas Shrugged was. So Fountainhead's a better book, right? Like if you're looking into like where does Ayn Rand stand on objectivism, like go ahead and do Fountainhead to really understand it. I think it's really well written. I think Atlas Shrugged was like she was sitting there and she was just like, people are like, I don't get it, I don't understand. And so like if for people to understand something, you have to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Atlas Shrugged is a perfect complement of a story to really just to show what she was thinking. Because I think I don't know if she got crazy, but like with philosophers, they go off the deep end and they die on their hill. And so like she was just like, well, rapist is just satisfying his want. And I was just like, okay, I'm out. But like the Atlas Shrugged is really just showing like, hey, like these are what the tenets are showing. And I think it's interesting to read it and then to see like what's happening. Like a lot of the themes that she pointed to are happening right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what's interesting. And I think that's why I like Atlas Shrugged. I think it's because it gives you a little bit of a story. You know, you get to fall in love with Dagny. I am Hank Reardon. You know, I want to be Hank Reardon.
Who is Hank Reardon?
Hank,
I haven't read those ones.
You haven't read Atlas Shrugged?
No, but now I'm gonna buy it on audiobook and I'll listen to it.
It's 1,000 pages.
I'm gonna listen to it at work. That's
It's only huge.
I'm sure I can find it for a steal.
If you really, I don't know how you
$90.
feel about bad movies. I feel
It's like a 5-part or something like that, right? On
8
Amazon.
parts, 64 hours.
Good God.
Yeah, I try to listen to it probably 2 or 3 times a year, and I try to read it once a year. I love that book. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the audiobook's worth it. 64 hours of your time, that's fine. You'll crush it in really, you can crush it in 8 days at work if you care.
Well, I'll cry. Yeah.
And the audiobook it's really good quality too. I have it. It's really good.
Word.
Yeah. I just admitted that I sold my soul to Jeff Bezos, so I now have Audible. So I just bought it. I own it through Audible.
Shill.
But he makes good products.
That's the problem. Yeah. That's the problem. It's we've gotten ourselves to a point in society, and we'll talk more in depth, I think, about this when we start talking about
eventually
more of the economic stuff. But we have essentially gotten to a point where society can't operate without Amazon anymore, among a few other countries or companies, and it's because he made a clutch company, man. It's great. I mean, anything that you really want, you could get within 2 days, just dropped off at the front of your house.
Even faster if you live in a major city.
Oh yeah, you get it the same day.
100%. And
crazy.
His plan that I don't know if it's his plan. Let me rephrase that. What I've read that he's looking into, understanding that I obviously don't know him, is that he wants to go around and buy the malls and then turn them into fulfillment centers, so that he could just naturally get closer. So because if he is in Silverdale, he now has access to Port Orchard with finite, the extra amount of time. It's just again, for him, it's money. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and I mean they did put one in out by where Bremerton Airport's at, heading out of Gorst. Yeah, there's a giant fulfillment center they put in there over the last couple of years. Oh yeah, they don't screw around, man. They don't. For some reason, a giant corporation like Amazon doesn't run into the permitting problems that all of us plebs have to deal with. They built that thing within a year, man. It was up and running. It was wild.
It's frustrating. That's probably the most frustrating thing. It's just this is why I can't take anything seriously, because everyone's we got to fight the billionaires. Listen, you keep giving the billionaires money, so who believes you? You want to be tough on billionaires, and so I don't like when people insult Jeff Bezos, because Jeff Bezos
is an evil genius.
He's an evil genius. But
he's a Bond villain. He even looks the part now.
100%. He's smart. Well, he's massive. I didn't know how big he had gotten. He's jacked.
Oh,
really?
You could see his different evolutions. I found a picture. I think Tim was talking about it on the Timcast one day. There's a montage of all his little different evolutions, and now the dude is ripped out of his mind, and he looks.
He's got to pick up a new bitch, right? I mean, he divorced. His wife is already married to somebody else.
Yeah.
Or getting married to somebody else. So.
It's wild.
What an act to follow, Jeff Bezos.
I know.
What an act to follow.
Yeah. When he blows up in space, it's going to be tragic. And no one's going to be able to fill his shoes.
He's going next week with his brother or something.
July 20th.
There you go.
Yep, day before my birthday, bro.
Oh, there you go. Next month, so we'll be able to report on whether or not Jeff Bezos is in small, tiny bits in space.
Do you guys watch Billions?
No.
I do. No. What is this?
So it's a stock show. I like it, but one of the plot lines in there was a rich billionaire going to outer space.
So it's like a fictional show.
It's a fictional show, but it's funny because it's playing out like Jeff Bezos. You dominate. You're I want to do something different. I want to see something different. And I'm just you know how much confidence he has to have in first rocket out, 50 years old, tons of life. He'll probably live to his 194 because he'll just probably recreating other humans to them, replace their organs with his organs with theirs.
Put his brain in there. Yeah.
I'm fairly sure he created the first android, who we all know now as Mark Zuckerberg. I'm fairly sure. I mean, it's a prototype, obviously. Yeah. He has some problems drinking fluids, but.
Oh my God! I couldn't do it. I couldn't be the first one out. But yeah, he's a psychopath. Listen, but he is jacked. You should look up a picture of him. He's super jacked on your 18 screens on your phone.
Yeah.
You can look up how jacked he is.
Still not enough.
No, listen. I have 3 monitors. I'm going for 6, so I could only be.
Especially after looking at that disgusting Jeff Toobin.
Yeah, let's see it.
Bezos here.
Oh God.
Oh, where his? Let's just do Jeff Bezos jacked. There he is.
Oh shit!
There he is.
Yeah.
We'll show the people. We'll show the people real quick. Hopefully that works. Boom.
He's absolutely massive.
He is absolutely massive.
Wow.
Yep, there it is. It popped up there. Good.
Yeah.
He's huge.
Yeah.
Good for
He
him.
is a Bond villain, dude.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
what
good
he
for
used to
him.
look like over there.
Right,
And
right.
Look at that
When
now.
the
He's
very
like,
beginning.
I will wreck you.
Weird. What a weird thing.
Yeah.
Listen, he's great. I would give anything to meet him, though. Not anything.
Dude,
but,
to have like a 3-hour conversation with Jeff Bezos, what would come out of that?
I couldn't afford it, but I don't know.
Right.
I hope I would be smart enough to talk to him. Like that's probably my biggest worry. Is just like, am I smart enough to carry on the proper conversation to stimulate him enough to like want to continue through our conversation? Like that's insane to me.
Either that, he either wants that, or because he's so busy all the time, he's like, just talk to me about the Seahawks.
Yeah.
You know?
I bet
Just
you he
bullshit me
hasn't
about
had a
sports,
regular,
you know?
like a normal conversation in
Yeah.
a long time. I bet you he'd appreciate that.
Yeah, he probably has 17 businesses. He's 2 big ones right now, but he
Yeah.
also has all the other stuff he's involved in. Obviously, he bought Twitch. Like he's just been buying stuff up.
He bought Twitch?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's on
no.
Well, he's
Twitch
on
for a
Twitch
while.
since 2011.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Washington Post. I love. He put out an opinion article in his own paper the other day. He put one out
Could you
in the Post.
Could you imagine an editor being like, "Yeah, we're not going to run this. Sorry, Jeff. It's
Yes.
not very good."
Soon enough, the Washington Post is just going to be the Jeff Bezos version of Donald Trump's website, like his blog. You know? It's just going to be shit that Jeff Bezos thinks is cool and stuff that he wants to be on there. You know, that's all that the Washington Post is
Oh
going to
man.
be.
Side note: I am super glad that that website went down. Like it
Donald
totally went
Trump's
to fuck.
website.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I never went. I never went to the blog. I was like, "Hey, like, should you have been kicked off of Facebook? Maybe, probably not. Am I ever going to read your blog? No.
No.
Or I got
Hard
off
no.
all of his things. Like, I really don't want him. I don't even want him to run.
No.
I don't want Kamala to run, but she's gonna run. Understanding
She's not going to have to run.
Yeah, she'll have to run for re-election.
Yeah.
Because there's just no Joe Biden at 79 is not good. But like I could not. I don't want Trump to run. Rob DeSantis. You know who I really love though? Miss Nome from
Christy, no?
South Dakota. Christy Nome from South Dakota.
She's pretty solid.
Big fan. I think she's so smart, intelligent, smart, just funny, just active, just great.
So
I've enjoyed listening to her talk.
So let me ask you about something, Larry. Let's get into
Send
the
it.
topic, okay?
Let's do it. Let's get
So-
into it.
Something that I've been thinking about, and it'll kind of bridge us into, I think, your theory here, right? Something that I have to ask you about because I'm not understanding it, but it made me think when you were talking about Democrats want to defeat the billionaires, but they keep giving billionaires more money, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about it in the pre-show a little bit, but like this deal with the housing market, right? And there have been a lot of articles lately about BlackRock specifically, enormous investing fund. I think it's the largest investing fund in the world.
Yeah, it's
right?
definitely one of the top like 3 or 4
It's big. It's
asset management
multiple
companies.
trillions of dollars worth of
Oh, yeah.
investing. They do it. It's just a timed thing on the grid, huh?
Yeah.
That's
I don't know
very
what it is. I don't know, but I'll figure it out. But
That's very
yeah, guys.
interesting. No, I'm not mad at it. I think it's funny. So BlackRock buying up all of this residential housing, right?
Yeah.
And because they're putting in bids that are, I think I saw 30 to 50% higher than the asking price for the current part of the house. I have currently been hearing coworkers of mine, talk about how this isn't a bubble. It's going to be like this forever. Why wouldn't it be like this forever? Like, what's going on here? And it seems to me, as somebody who lived through 2008, my family lost their house in like 2012. It seems evident to me that this looks like it is a housing bubble because people's homes are being appraised for way more than they're worth, you know? And I know that a lot of your thing has been inflation. And so we were talking about like job shortage, labor shortages, things like that.
Yeah.
What is your take on this whole deal with BlackRock? If you're paying attention, what you're paying
Oh yeah,
attention
yeah. You have to because we didn't lose a bid to them, but we did lose a bid to an investment bank that paid I think $97,000 over asking. So there's that. But I don't know if I don't think it's a bubble, right? So this is what I'll say, right? So the problem that people ran into is that banks were so massively leveraged, right? So they're taking leverage, giving money to people who didn't need the money. The difference, in my opinion, this time is banks aren't giving anyone money. They're just going direct to consumer. They are going to buy it, right? So the question you have to ask then, it's a bubble. Like, why are they buying the homes, right? Because they appreciate X amount of thing over time. You keep it on balance sheet. It also gives you super cheap debt, right? And Dave Ramsey will say debt is bad, but debt has a place, right? And it's really just like, with inflation on the rise, the easiest way to deal with it is to take on super cheap debt because the debt gets cheaper as you go on. So a 30-year mortgage is going to be super cheap in the future, right? And the easiest way to show it is like a house that's worth $70,000, and you're like, oh man, I'm working super hard to pay this $300 note now, or sorry, 1970s worth $70,000, paying about a $300 mortgage. Now that $300 mortgage is the easiest thing in the world. You're like, that doesn't hit me at all, right? Because you have natural wage inflation, natural costs and stuff that go, like everything goes up. So that's good for them, and it's really good for their books to give them a good residual return, right? So when you're not worried about how much money you're going to get, right? Because they're so big, like that's not where they're making the money, right?
Right.
But you do get a steady return, right? So all you're doing is trying to control market. People are going to rent, even if they don't buy. People need to live somewhere. Where are they going to live? So they're going to have a steady return. It may not be the same kind of return that's competitive with me, but their 5% return is cool when I'm looking for a 12. So they can crush the market, buy up all the supply, and then raise prices and then extract more return. So like the leverage that caused the bubble last time, they're not as worried about because they feel more secure in their investments and they have more money to throw at it.
There is an issue, right? And this is where I don't understand. So I need your help with this one, right? I'm trying to understand because I know the Fed is involved somehow with BlackRock buying all these things, right? The Fed is covering the back end, covering back deals. Like I was reading yesterday, they're buying ETFs that BlackRock is involved in. That's helping them fund this acquisition by BlackRock, right? So then I'm trying to understand what the fuck an ETF is, right? And there really was no amount of research I could do independently that would actually tell me what an ETF is. It's just this eternal circle of ETF mutual fund, ETF mutual fund, ETF mutual fund, and these are the slight differences between the two.
Yeah, so I wouldn't dig in too deep to like how does an ETF differentiate from an index fund. I think that's too much in the minutia, and you're not going to care about it. The ETF is a type of index fund, right? So a mutual fund, right? We'll start.
So what's an index fund?
So a mutual fund is basically like you buy a stock, right? We go buy an Apple. And then you're like, hey, like I want to buy Apple's like what, $2,000. And you want to buy Amazon, that's like $3,200. Say you want to buy GoPro, that's like another $100. And you want to be about Palantir, I think that's like $90 or $107 or something like that, right? And you're like, wow, I don't have enough money to diversify across all these stocks. So a mutual fund says, hey, me, you, and the hundreds of thousands of people are going to pool our money so that we can properly diversify across these different sectors. Because your 1,000, Colin's 1,000, my 1,000 is nothing, but our $3,000 means more, and our million would mean even more. That's a mutual fund. Okay. An index fund is something that where someone creates a fund that mimics something, right? So the
certain characteristics of an index fund, right?
Well, the index fund's going to mimic the Fortune.
The mutual fund.
The mutual fund, exactly. Yes. So it's going to index it. It just means it's going to basically mark itself against the S&P 500. So if someone says, hey, I'm in the S&P 500 index fund, it's not, they don't own every single company, but that index fund is going to copy whatever the S&P 500 is, right? So it's going to have the same return as what you see on the ticker when you see S&P 500.
At a slightly lower risk?
It's super low risk, right?
Okay.
Well, especially that one, right? Because there's so many companies there, right? So you're not beholden to a company. So what's a Fortune 500 company? When Ford is idiotic and when American Airlines is idiotic and they're leveraged out of their minds and they collapse into themselves before the government bailed them out, you weren't worried about your index fund as much because the other 500 companies, right? Amazon skyrocketed because Jeff Bezos is buying America. So it basically levels it off, right?
Yeah.
So the index fund is basically saying that you're going to index or mimic S&P 500. The ETF is the involvement of it, right? And I don't want to get too deep because this is where it loses me. ETF is basically an electronic format of trading where it trades super micro fees, but so often that gives you the gain, right? So like it's at the tertiary level, but it's essentially a type of mutual fund, right? What the Fed is doing was during this, they started to literally buy stock. So like when stuff should have tanked and the market should take hold, they're like, hey, we're going to buy this stock to basically hold this up. So it's an artificial holding up
Right.
of the stock.
Right.
BlackRock benefits in it, right? Because if you're a big company, they're like, hey, we can't give money directly to BlackRock. That would be showing our hand just a little bit too much, even for the government.
Little too much.
Right.
Literally just funding it. So you'd be like, hey, you're invested in cows in North Dakota. I'm not going to give you $10 million, but I'm going to inject $100 million into the cow industry in North Dakota. That's going to heal and recover your life, going to put you in a great place, but you haven't done anything. It's artificial, and that's how the Fed is contributing to BlackRock, other people, right? That's how they're getting money in the big people's pocket.
And so that's where I started to get concerned, right?
Yes.
Is the idea of this not being a bubble. And maybe not a traditional bubble in the way like you were talking about that the bank itself is over leveraged, but when the Fed is investing money that's actively being inflated in a company that is actively acquiring huge swaths of the market.
Yeah.
There is a circle of inflation there that is eventually going to come to tide somewhere, right? Someone's going to is going to be left holding the bag per se at the end of that.
Yeah, because
and,
the real
and
estate
it's not going to be
market will
BlackRock, right?
eventually kind of level out.
100%. So it's
Assuming, I know
Ideally.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? At this point, even, and I asked this, right? Because I have some quotes here from Jen Psaki, from Jake Sullivan. They're talking about these supply line bottlenecks, right? That's what they're called. That's the term they're using now, supply line bottlenecks, supply and demand, right? So I found this really interesting, supply line bottlenecks. And so,
solid Jen Psaki original.
yes, to the point that they started like 90 days ago, because it just finished, they started doing an investigation into what the issue was in the supply line bottlenecks. Why is this happening, right?
Yeah.
And so before this is even done, they're saying, oh, one of the issues specifically with construction and housing is supply line bottleneck somewhere. Not going to specify how, don't really know, but there's a supply line bottleneck, and that's the issue with supply and demand, right?
yes.
First of all, I know that's not really true, because fucking people that we know in construction are building houses out the asshole. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's not the problem. They're talking about lumber, fucking whatever. It's this and it's this. This is not the issue, right? The prices are going up because the demand is higher, but the fact that people can't get it is not. That's not true.
Because at the end of the day, somebody is going to have a bigger amount of money than your average everyday home buyer.
Yes.
And the product that you're going to be forced to sell at a higher markup due to the massive increase in supply that you need to build that product, it's still you're still not going to have a problem selling that at the back end. You're just not selling it to the plebs like us.
So I might not be able to do an improvement on my house, but somebody building a home is still going to be able to get the supplies to build that home.
Yep.
Right? So I'm confused on how this artificial thing that's going on. This isn't none of this is real. And it's all from different corners being propped up like it's not a problem, you know?
From my experience in that direct field, there is a supply problem, but it's not a problem that has caused the industry to stop or slow down what they're doing.
Right.
It's just there is a lot of back order. You're having to find alternative suppliers for materials that you used to be able to get, and a lot of it is just because the base manufacturing end, the employees who are doing the work at a manufacturing plant to provide the base product you need to build your end goal product, they're not there anymore. Or they're in a very reduced capacity because they don't have to work right now.
Yeah.
And so that's causing prices to skyrocket. The supply shortage is indeed true, but it's not like, that's why they can say there's not a shortage, because it still exists. You're just going to have to pay out the ass to get it. You're going to have to do a lot more work to find it, and it's going to cost you more on the back end to get that. So it's not, that's how they can get away by saying there is no real supply shortage. It's the bottlenecks and blah, blah, blah.
And so if that's happening, right, if all of these prices are being maybe artificially inflated is not the best way to put it. That's the best word I can come up with at this particular moment, right?
Think it's an
because
apt
it doesn't
way to do
reflect the true cost of what those goods really are in a standard time, right?
Because the federal government is causing the artificial drawdown.
Yes. So if the cost of everything, and I'm trying to work something out here, so forgive me if I'm not making a whole lot of sense. But so if the cost of all of these things, from supplies to labor to houses, are all being artificially inflated, I don't understand how it's not a bubble. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's not in the traditional sense, like I said, that the banks themselves are over leveraged. If the federal government is doing all of this and also trying to artificially manage inflation, because that's definitely happened, the artificial management of inflation, I don't understand how someone isn't going to get fucked at the end of this, you know? And it
in my
seems to me
mind,
like it's going to be the class of people that I think Sagar and Crystal have been talking about, like the permanent renting class that is going to be created by this cycle of disgustingness that's happening with this investing fund, you know?
And if I had to just
Does
kind
that
of
make
throw
sense?
my
What I've
yeah,
just,
it does.
okay.
And if I had to throw my initial thought out there, it's probably because in the previous bubble, it was the private banks that
Yes.
were holding all.
The 2008
They were the ones
financial
holding the bag
crisis.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, it's the Fed, and they are the money supply. The Fed is everything, and so there is no. They could do whatever they want because at the end of the day, they can always just print more money. And so it's not like a bank where they will be leveraged against the Fed or something like that. That's where it all begins. It's the origin point of all currency. And so if they're the ones in artificially inflating everything by printing out more money, at the end of the day, there's nobody that's going to call their loans or anything like that. They're the ones that are pumping the money, so they can't pop.
Yeah.
I guess if I had to, that's my instinctual kind of like, that's where I would think about that.
Yeah, and I think just to add on, like you're not wrong. You're in a good place. I think you're in the same way earlier. I was looking in the bathroom and it was in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening here, right? So like, we have a couple things going causing prices going. Colin already talked about one, right? There is a supply constraint. You're also right. I have no idea where it's at. I've just heard in the lumber industry, just because again I've had to look for lumber, things like that. I've had to change orders and things like that. Like my fence, we went with a completely different wood than we wanted because he's like, I can do this like 4 months earlier. So I was like, okay, just fix my fence.
It'd be 4 months to get cedar if you want cedar, but if you want to just go with some knotty pine, we could do that next week.
Well, and part of its labor, not to interrupt you, but part of its labor, and I know that for sure because in these press briefings they were talking about last month there was a decline in construction jobs across the country. Overall there's a decrease in construction jobs. Like Jake is talking about, it's like because of the amount of work I have right now, he said he could hire 10 more people, but in a year. Not even that you can't find them, but in a year he's going to have to lay off at least half of them because it's just right now that this is happening.
Yeah,
we're definitely it's definitely a spike, and like on top of that, so like people are obviously buying homes, right? There's you guys specifically in Washington are also going through a period where you have an exodus from Washington. Yep. People are buying up there, right? And so they're doing the same thing, not to the same level as BlackRock, but they are offering above the offering, right? So you'll come in and be like, hey, like 50K over offering, which is literally pushing people out of the market, right? Because
I will tell you right now, Larry, it is not uncommon for houses, brand new homes right now, to be going a solid 100K plus over asking. People are coming in dropping cash for those things,
and that's tough to beat. And then
it is.
The second thing we have is like, this is kind of the problem you're alluding to, right? So like the more money in the market, right? The more supply, the more they print, there's more dollars chasing less products, right?
Yes.
So this is where the inflation is, right? That's why they call it like a hot market. They're trying to keep it cool because like if everyone has $1 million, best example is the PS5. Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
But like, so two things happened. One, constraint supply. So that automatically shot it up. But once you gave the stimmies, it artificially moved the price of the PS5s. Because once you know, like, hey, everybody has $1,200 in the back pocket, why would I leave it at $800 when people are out there? Because then the person who wants it the most and willing to pay that, they're going to ruin the market. Yep. So that's going there too. So specifically for lumber, like everybody is waiting till September. Because that was the initial prediction. Like, hey, in September, this is all going to be fixed. Prices should regulate and we should get it out, right? Because they're saying it's not inflation, right? That's the same thing they're saying with cars, because right now, like you probably heard, like we're at 5% inflation, which is a little dramatic, if I could say, because we're within month to month, we were 1%, which is okay. It's a little bit high, but it was predicted, so we're comfortable. But if you do year over year, it's going to be 5%. That being said, we have to wait for this to normalize because we are, and I don't like, maybe lean on too hard, but we are going through a little bit of recession. So like that, the supply, although there's everything should normalize in September, and we'll see what it is. On the back end of what you're talking about, the difference between now and then, right, there's a bunch of people who had subprime mortgages who are also holding variable rate loans.
Yeah.
So like after a period of time, a ton of those hit with people who could not pay that loan, and so there is a massive amount of foreclosure. If you look at the foreclosure numbers, they haven't been trending in a way to let it go. To finish it all off, where I think the bubble is, I think it's in the U.S. dollar. Because the U.S. dollar is going to start, like, the more dollars we have out there, right? We all know that 25% of our money supply is printed in the last 6 months. Well, the more supply out there, there has to be a demand to keep up with it. So, for example, that's why America does not encourage savers, right? Just upfront, consumerism is everything, right? Because it keeps the money going, keeps the velocity going. B, that's why it's so important for us, in my mind, to then hold on to the international, not only buy oil overseas, like not be oil dependent, but to like keep people wanting the petrodollar, right? Because the demand's going to come for everything. I think the bubble you're talking about isn't in the housing market. I think it's in the U.S. currency, and you've seen that with the way I invest in crypto. Like that's the last part right there.
And so, do you think that just because it's often said, and I think it's true, that real estate, housing, property is how the everyman gains and retains wealth in America? So do you think that's because of that it's just easier to see or presents itself easier in the housing market? The bubble that we're seeing or that you're predicting is in the dollar itself. That's just the easiest place to see it is in the housing market.
Yeah, and I think it's visceral. So I think what's happening is like the BlackRock has so much money that you cannot hold U.S. currency.
$10+ trillion BlackRock has that they are investing around the world and around the country.
100%, because they know the dollar. They know the dollar's worth it. If you had a graded 10 Charizard like Logan Paul, he wears that around his neck because there's nothing else like it around. It's that valuable to him. The dollar's so useless. They're going out of their way to overpay to get into an investment because they know the dollar's trash. And the reason why the housing market's so easy to see, because it's visceral, right? No one likes big banks coming and buying the house. Like, it's your dream home. It's their way to stave off against an inflation that the government's causing that they're in bed with, right? So they're fixing a problem that they see working at the highest level, and they're ruining your dream in the process. Like, the American dream is the white picket fence, right?
Right.
You know, the kids you want, but everybody, our home, like, this is my house. Like, it's really nice coming home to my house. So when they're not beholden to banks, when they become the bank, one, and two, they're staving off and protecting themselves against the problem that the government's causing when they're in bed with them. And three, they're shitting on everybody's dream. That's why the housing market, that's why the crazy headline, because like even when you read the headline, it may not even be in your market. You may not even be in the market for a house, but whenever you see that, someone said, I said it, right? I was, okay, we lost a bid for $90K to an investment bank. And you guys are like, yo, fuck them, right? Like, you guys are like, I'm not even moving in the house. Like, I'm cool, but like, you're like, fuck them, because again, it's so visceral.
Yeah, because
I think that's why
a person can move into a house. A bank is just going to own that.
And because the numbers don't give a shit about the house, they don't give a shit about you. The numbers that are running that algorithm that's telling BlackRock this is what we should invest our money into doesn't give a shit about the other people that want to move into that house. Doesn't give a shit about the people who just saved for the last 5 years to try and have enough for a down payment of the house that just got swept out from under them for for $90K above asking price when their wiggle room was $5K. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So let me see if I could put it in another way, and Larry, tell me if this is kind of apt. For BlackRock, investing in massive amounts of real estate is essentially akin to you, me, us, whoever's doing it, the individual investing their money in crypto, because I don't have faith enough in the U.S. dollar to put it in a bank. Because my $100 I put in the bank tomorrow is going to be worthless in a year from now. So I put it in crypto because it's not tied to the U.S. currency.
Okay.
So is that kind of the same deal that we're talking about? They're looking for places to stash their money, because if you're holding the dollar right now, it's suicidal. You're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
No, 100%. And that's all anyone's doing when they invest is they're looking for a store value. Mm-hmm. Because if you look in the 1970s when we were experiencing, when we were coming out of experiencing stagflation, rising prices with inflation, high unemployment with inflation. I apologize. Yep. That was the backwards. Anyways, we had like a 17% savings rate. So people saved. Like, it was encouraged to put your money back in because you're like, I'm going to put this in knowing that it's going to be worth more later. Uh-huh. You hear about it all the time. banks are giving you nothing to leave your money in there. So you're getting what, 0.1%?
There's no incentive.
No incentive. So all anyone's doing when you invest is looking for a store value. You're going to say, I'm going to put my money here thinking it's going to be worth more. The only reason you put your money in stocks when you're a kid is because when you're older and you take it out, you're like, okay, this should rise. Compounding interest, things like that. That's all they're doing with houses, and they're doing it on such a large scale. It's what I encourage people to do with crypto, because crypto is so new. A, it forces people to understand it because I think it's important. B, it's a way to store value, right? Like, everybody's made fun of me when crypto dropped. Everyone said, oh, Larry, because I made that post, I was fucking out there. I was like, boom, if you had invested with me in crypto and the exact portfolio I told you, you're still up. Like, I was still up 27%.
Yeah, when you were buying it at 60, when it was the top of the spike, it's probably not the best time to buy it. I mean, I know I did, because it was chump change at that point. I was just buying $20 anything, but it's the same deal. And then we all knew it was going to settle out eventually, and that was fine because we'd already bought in before it spiked anyways.
100%. And then the crazy part is, again, we're gonna have another spike. So we talk about it later, but like all we're looking for is store value. BlackRock, the smartest people in the world. To this, until someone proves me wrong. The smartest people in the world are investment banks.
Yep.
Because that is the most competitive, right? You can be a boy, girl, you can be a he, she, they, them, you can be black, white. If you are a money producing asset, you're gonna win in that world, because money is everything. Maybe not sitting around the table, but go ahead and talk to the brokers. Go ahead and look at the commission checks that they're getting off the checks, right? Like, because like you said it, $10 trillion, right? $10 trillion. So even if you get a 2% commission, which is shit, you're still gonna make $200 billion.
Yeah.
Those are the commission checks you're cutting. So how competitive is that? The most competitive, just because the most competitive, the winners are there. So when like BlackRock knows what they're doing, and so everybody kind of got mad that they're doing it when everyone should be asking, why are they doing it?
So let me ask you this, because I think that you're right about the visceralness or viscerality. I don't know what the active version of that word is, but I think you're right about that. And part of the reason I agree with you, as Jordan and I start to look at buying a house, fuck them. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, there's no way that as we look at it, I could afford to even try for $90K over whatever I'm budgeted at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So if there isn't a bubble, which I hear what you're saying, I'm not totally convinced, but I hear what you're saying. So where does that leave someone like me? You know what I'm saying? Who maybe in the next year or two is going to be trying to buy a house. Like, if prices are feasibly $200,000 of what they realistically should be, right? Like, what is that? If there's no hope for the bubble to pop, then like, what do I do?
I think, and this is how I explain it to my friends and my clients. I think they're the British, we're America, right? Sick, we're patriots, we're the Americans. But in the same way that they're going to bring more guns, people, better assets, everything, we have to be more creative in our techniques, and we have to be more tenacious in our approach. So like what my friends have done, what I've encouraged people to do, what I've done to get into properties, is they're buying turnkey properties. They're buying the nice house. They're buying the house you want. So there's one of two things you can do. You can either be pissy, which I was for a long time, that they're buying all the shit I want. Or
you mean BlackRock, the investment bank?
Yeah,
okay.
Just investment banks in general.
And just to be clear, that you're not talking about your friends, because there are a lot of people who also, there's obviously some people who like brand new houses, some people who are willing to put the work in on an old house and make it better.
And that's what I think people should focus on. I think people need to look at the house that needs love.
Okay.
That gets looked at and be like, okay, like what can I do? Because what I've seen, the people who've done the best in this period is buying homes that the gutter's falling off, buying homes that need that fresh coat paint, buying homes that need that new roof. Because at a certain point, it's going to become cheaper to buy a terrible house, fix it up over an extended period of time, and then just live in that.
Which gives me hope, because that's where I'm at. That's who I am anyway. Is to buy an old house and make it what I want it to be. I also am just lucky enough to have those skills. Dax's entire room I built it pretty much myself. So I mean, all these are things that I can do largely by myself. Take down walls, build new rooms, shit like that inside of my house.
You got skills.
Yeah. So that certainly gives me comfort, that's going to be the way to go, or potentially the way to go is to be buying an older house that large investment funds are not, because that makes sense. If all they're looking to do is to, like you said, would it just would you say retain wealth, retain worth,
store value.
Store value, that's what it was, right? So if all they're looking to do is store value, they're not going to buy a shitty house and then hire a subcontractor or a contractor to go in and fix the house up so they can try and sell it for more. They're just going to buy a house that's good, and then so that makes a lot of sense.
So
100%.
Flippers, that makes me think about house flippers. Like,
That's what yeah. So I've done some flips this year. Yeah, 100%. And what I've learned is like us being smaller with certain skills are navigated, because when you're competing against BlackRock, you can't think of the game like that. It's the same with Amazon. It's why Amazon wins at such a high level, because Jeff Bezos doesn't think like other people. He literally, and again, this is me talking to friends that work in Amazon that like sit at the table, just the conversation they have. 2 questions he asks whenever he moves into a sector: is this sector going to be here in 10 years? And B, can we innovate around them? And those are questions that big businesses don't ask, because they want the least amount of problems. Like, you're like, hey, I'm going to fix this one room, this one roof, this one toilet. They're like, they would be like, hey, we're going to have to fix hundreds and thousands, which means we have contractors that different. We have the payroll. You have different kind of shit. Like, running payroll in Washington is way different than running payroll in Florida. They're way different from Texas, Georgia. So
the logistics itself,
100%, right? So you're talking about coordination part. So they didn't want that business. So that's what I told people to do. I've helped people get into homes where it's like, hey, this home isn't what we want now, but this is in a great location. Like, what are you willing to do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, like, you have the skills. I don't have the skills. I have negative skills. But I'm super good at helping people creatively acquire money. So that's what I do. I bring money, and my partner, he does all the building out. I don't look at hammers. I don't do anything. My DIY consists of putting together IKEA furniture. But at the same way, I still have a skill. I can still help you figure out, okay, like, do you need money? Like, do you need the loan? Do you need to meet the right people? Because, like, what I care about at the end of the day is learning what everyone's doing at the highest level, at the fucking tip of the sphere, and then I want to bring it down to everybody. Because I don't like when people for example, you feel uncomfortable with approaching the conversation of buying a house because you're intimidated by the process, and then you see how much money's being thrown around. How is that fair? Yeah. That's not the America I signed up for. So in my head, like, you'll never have a question about taxes. You'll never have a question about funding, loans, anything that you can't just hit me up and ask me a question. I can get you the immediate answer. I want to bring that to everyone now. I don't like how people go through life not knowing, because people don't know that they should be storing value, and BlackRock is stealing money from them.
Yeah.
Not through anything nefarious. Well, they are being nefarious, but it's more just an asymmetrical understanding of information. Like, your guys' job has helped you understand. Like, you cannot fight the battle because you know what's happening. How many people don't know that BlackRock is doing this? Like,
right.
They're just walking through life. And so, like, how is that fair? So you're asking the great question, like, well, this fucking sucks. How do I get my piece? Right? And so you've asked a great question, and I want to get there to everyone. So everyone fucking, all these kids are going to go in. Like, some kids, like, in a store value are going to college, right? Which is the worst store value, in my opinion.
Idiots.
Mm-hmm.
Idiots.
Fucking fools.
A very small percentage of those people are going to get a return on their investment.
Yeah.
It's worth anything.
100%.
So, Larry, what you're saying is you are trying to bridge the gap between people and information.
That's why I like talking to guys. This is literally why when I start podcasts, it's coming under you guys. Because I just believe in your mission.
That's the key. That's the key to the Salt of the Streets network.
Yeah.
It's like, you want to be a part of the network, all you got to do is bridge a gap between people and information, and boom, Larry's doing that every day.
What I'm hearing from Larry is that I need to move to Oklahoma and work for his friend that flips all these houses.
Florida. He lives in Florida.
He lives in Florida.
Oh, yes. Jordan will be pissed about that.
Yeah. Should be real upset.
If you guys listen, if you want a job where he needs people, and
I know,
and you guys said it earlier, because you work in labor. So how shitty is it? How daunting is it getting the work right? You close the deal, and you're like, I need fucking people. You can't trust people. I have people overpay. I have people overpaying me right now to do work with them because they're like, oh, we just can't find employees.
Oh yeah, I overpay everybody that I have to hire because there's just nobody out there. It's insane.
I just got a raise, so I guess I can't be like, I'm not getting overpaid. But that's also like, because that's the difficult thing with that particular job, because it's like such a unique market.
Oh,
There
yeah.
isn't even
Super niche.
there's not even a place you can go to compare to be like, oh well, this person working this job in a separate company is making $4 more an hour than I am. Why am I not making? It's just like whatever you think I should be making. Honestly, I don't even know. So I don't just throw me
This is
some
what I
cash
need to
and
pay
we'll
my
just call
bills,
it good.
but I mean, I'd like a little more.
That's
No,
what I'm saying.
which is not I am my company treats me well. So
They're good
just for
people.
anybody
They're good
listening,
people.
it's not the small businesses are really good.
Yeah. I know. Well, I don't know them well. I know their kids. Well, everyone knows their kids. They are the mafia of Bremerton. But
Yes.
Once Dan's, my boss's oldest daughter, married Noah Garjul, and the Baumgartners and the Garjuls like bred, because they got 4 kids now. Just those two have 4 kids now. There are 4 combined Baumgartner Garjul children. Dangerous.
That's like
dangerous for this
I
town.
want to make a Game of Thrones reference here somewhere.
That's exactly what it's like.
But
That's
I don't
exactly
remember
what
the
it's
name
like.
of the houses, but it's like the 2 most powerful houses in Kitsap joining together.
Dangerous.
Boom.
It's amazing. Noah was super cool. I was obsessed with Noah for a while because he was really good at football.
I see him all the time.
Yeah, listen, just tell him I said hi. He probably doesn't remember me anymore, but
He
say that about
literally
everybody, though.
doesn't talk about anything besides sports and money, so I'm sure he knows exactly who you
yeah.
are.
Listen, we can.
He'll be your biggest fan, bro.
Yeah.
You start that show tomorrow. I'll help you out with the graphics and the producing. Noah's going to
cool.
be your #1 fan.
You'll be proud because of this, Larry. Like 2 months ago, when we talked about the expansion of the Supreme Court, it was because Noah came over to my office and was like, "Hey, I wanted to ask you." To me, he said, "I wanted to ask you your opinion on the expansion of the Supreme Court." And so he stood there and talked to me for like 10 or 15 minutes about what I thought about the expanding the Supreme Court. I was like, "You're goddamn right, you did."
Yeah.
So I want to bring up a quick little topic here, kind of in relation to what we've been talking about with housing and whatnot.
Yes.
Because I had a conversation with a guy yesterday, making the argument that creating essentially a new permanent renting class
Yes.
Yeah.
would overall, in the big picture, be better for society because more people can afford rent than homes, right? And obviously, I made the argument about the fact that, like, no, that's a really bad idea because the minute you get that first mortgage, you now have liquidity. You now have assets that are worth more than you'll ever acquire in your entire life. Your house,
Right.
that first home purchase, now you have roughly $250 to plus $1,000 worth of net worth, and you'll never be rid of that, right? Unless you lose the house or something like that. Whereas if you're renting, you just basically have what's in your bank account or whatever kind of investments you're making. So your thoughts on let's say there's a 50% growth in the rental market compared to home ownership.
So it's okay. So I'm torn on it. I like renting, but it has to be under the right circumstances. And this is what I mean. You have to own assets in this world, period. Right? Like you build. If you like literally like if I ever have a kid, be a podcast, here's what you do. You complete high school. You then make it to 25 without having a kid, and then you marry the girl you like before you have a kid. If you can do those things where like you're gonna be on a great spot, then you need to start looking at building a portfolio. The only reason you get assets is that when you're done working, when your body is now incapable to work, right? Whether that happens on your deathbed and you're done, or it happens when you're 40, you want your passive money or your assets to pay for your lifestyle, right? And so right now, I don't even like people right now that buy homes, right? Because I don't think they're thinking the whole way through, right? Because they sit in one house forever and they don't think about the future, right? Because we live in such a now culture, which is fine. I don't like people who say I'm going to rent because right now in America, what we do is we spend. So if they're never putting in a home, they have no store value. So they're just going to spend all their paychecks. And we've seen it, right? The data supports we are bad with money.
Oh, yeah. That whole, for the longest period, it was like the average American couldn't afford $1,000
Well, now it's down to like $500.
Oh, I believe it, bro.
Yeah.
I swear to God, something happens to me every single month that takes away all my savings.
Yeah.
Because something pops up and you got to pay for this.
Every time I feel the same. Every time we get a little bit, and then it's something happens.
Life just got a way of smashing you back down.
The last time we paid off all that debt, and the dog ate that fucking banana bread. Like, you bitch. I had to take it to the hospital.
How could you do this to me?
Paid off a bunch of debt, and then we had to pay like $400 to have the dog back. Like, bitch.
So here's savings this month. So I definitely get that.
But that's what I'm saying, and that's why I think it's so important to have assets. I think that's why it's important to do it. That's why I like buying a home, right? As opposed to that, because I'm also terrible at saving. Well, now I'm a degenerate, but before I was a degenerate, I struggled saving, right? Because I would be like, I'm going to save at the end of my paycheck. When you have to save at the beginning. Now I have to pay all my mortgages, or they're going to take it away from me. So now at the beginning of my paycheck, at the top of my budget, I'm just like, okay, how do I make sure I pay for these mortgages? Well, that's building my equity down the road, right? Then some of the rentals give me cash, right? That's giving me cash flow in perpetuity until I sell, right? So I've done two things. I've now established a way to make money without working, massive, not a ton right now, but still making money without working. And then B, I have something that's going to be a store of value. So when I sell it down the road, I will be able to extract money from it, more money than now. So now I've compounded my saving ability.
Yeah, because ideally every mortgage payment, because when you first buy a house, you're generally over leveraged because you're going to spend how many years paying off the interest on that, whatever mortgage you got, right?
Yep.
But ideally, every mortgage payment you put, your net worth goes up at that point because you don't owe as much money on the same asset that ideally is appreciating in value and becoming more valuable at the end.
And that's how I think about it. I literally look at it, I pay it down, like, wow, I $70 in net worth this month. I have $140 in net worth this month. And that's literally how I look at it. What I don't but renting, on the other caveat, why I like renting is if you're not married, right? You can do it if you're married. But if you're not married, why would you ever stay in one place? I personally don't think about it. Like right now, me and my wife are obviously married, so we'll probably settle down in Florida. But like if you're not married, you should want to be mobile. And so renting allows you to be a nomad because instead of being tied to an asset for 30 years or a longer period of time, you can now just be like, hey, I have a 6-month lease, I have a 1-year lease, so you can move around. Where I think the maximum, if I could go talk to my younger son, what I would say is like, hey, rent, but take all your money and get into a house, right? So get into a house with the intention of like, every time we move into a house, I don't believe in a forever home. So I get into a house and then I get out of it so I can rent the house. So that house can start producing money and then someone else can pay it down, right? So I can multiply giving me money / paying down my mortgage, right? So that would be the best is when I could rent in a place, experience the world, but then still be able to buy homes other places. But right now, with the cash flow I have, the best strategy for me is to move into a house, live there for about 1 year to 2 years, and then move into another home. But we're going to move a lot because that's the best way to build wealth, right? And these are the strategies that I told you guys about. This is what I help people do, right? To help them build this plan when they're competing against the BlackRocks.
It's certainly interesting. Especially this past week, there's been a lot of conversation back and forth between people that think what BlackRock doing is, essentially the smart move versus the people that are going more or less making the populist argument, saying this is bad because they're pushing the plebs out of their chance at maintaining the middle class.
Yeah.
And I can understand now, particularly after having this conversation, I understand where BlackRock's coming from, but it doesn't stop me from kind of despising what they're doing to us while they're essentially just doing what is smart for them.
100%.
Because it's just like, could you not do it in any other market where you're not pushing out us plebs from getting at it? But I get it, because real estate's always going to be worth something. It's always going to be worth something.
Yep.
A part of me wishes they could just why don't they just invest in Bitcoin? Just throw it all in Bitcoin, guys. You'd be all right. Leave the houses alone.
Just pump me up, baby.
Right.
That's the only thing with Bitcoin is it's steadier, right?
Yeah.
So like they're also corporations. So corporations are not doing Bitcoin yet, but small people are. Why? Because like when my portfolio cut down by 30%, I don't have any shareholders that I have to brief that to.
Yeah.
But when shareholders see like, oh, like you lost X amount of cash, like you have to talk about that, right? Like you talk about your asset class and allocation. I think that matters. And so I think homes are going to be super steady. And that's why I don't think I have so many people in the real estate world. I'm in the real estate world. I do a lot of taxes, do a lot of reading. I don't think the real estate market's going to go. And so I told people just to get into a house. I would, in most cases, I'd rather someone get into a houses and hold on there than hold on saving up to get into a house. I think it's that important, and I think it's going to be that beneficial for people.
So get in if you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the day, it's even if you hit a bump where all of a sudden your house is going to drop in price and now you're over leveraged a little bit, as long as you could still make those payments and keep going, it'll come back and it'll still be a good investment in the end.
100%. Like 2008 was bad for people who sold. Talk to the people that stayed. My mom stayed in the house for 2008, right? So I watched the high and the low, and now again she was in Washington. Her house skyrocketed, and so even if it crashes, even if you're in the wrong moment, it's only bad if you sell or get out of it, right? So there's like plans, there's strategics, and there's budgeting mechanisms that I can help people implement. This is like, I won't say 90% of my job, but this is the other part of my job, right? I help people budget, save up. Like I have these conversations over and over and over again, and what I'm seeing is that the people who get in are experiencing that wealth. And at the same part of it, again, you're gonna have to live somewhere.
Yeah. Right. And I was gonna just push back on you, but then I had to kind of correct myself, because when we lost our house, right, it was because of what you were talking about, when the variable interest rates, right, and then all of a sudden the mortgage payment was just more than we could afford, right, and that's like, and then there was litigation and mediation and like all of this shit that happened afterwards. So I was gonna push back and like, well, but I can't, because if like you were saying, people are not buying from the banks are buying things up. There isn't that variable interest rate, that is going to skyrocket people's mortgages. So if you're still getting a regular mortgage from a mortgage company that isn't a crazy, fucked up mortgage like it was in 2008, then you aren't running that same risk that people were back then when they didn't know kind of everything they were getting into. So that's very interesting. Yeah.
At the same time, there is some fuckery going on, because when you have an entity like a BlackRock or some big property management or investment firm paying well over cost for these things, pushing other people out of the market, you are artificially inflating the market by driving prices through the roof. And eventually that will level out. And whether that'll be when they start to sell off their assets because they feel it's a safe enough time to do so, or, or we print another $10 trillion.
But if you stayed in your home, then you really just lost theoretical wealth almost, because you stayed there, your mortgage wasn't different, nothing changed. It was just the appraisal value of your home at that given time.
Yeah. Right.
That's
now,
very interesting.
Your house is worth $500,000, you bought it for $250,000. At the end of the day, things will settle back out, and your house will probably be $350,000 at the end.
As long as it's not lower than what you paid for, and if you bought it at the right time, that's really right. That's very interesting. That's very, very interesting.
And that's super. And the other thing about it too is, I talk to a lot of people, is like they literally, again, like me, I have friends that will not sell. Period. Right. So then I'm talking to people like, because I have the same problems, right? Like don't like, the only reason I can be comfortable without this conversation is because like I had an existential crisis, dude. I was buying water, buying food. I was like, this is it. And I do think that time's coming, unfortunately, because I think we're ready.
I had a fucking armor plate carrier, Larry. I used to be bringing my rifle here every weekend. I was thinking about that on my way here. Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
It's crazy, but like the 30-year loan gives you so much predictability. Like, so like if you get to a house and you're paying $1,700, $2,000, you're like, okay, I just have to make $2,000, because the variable rate's never going to come kick in. So you're like, even when shit goes to shit, you're like, okay, well, let me just get to this $2,000. So like, that's why I encourage people, like you relentlessly have to cut down on your limit, like do less. Like I'm pretty excited because like after we're going to Mexico for my best friend's wedding, because I'm best man at his wedding. I'm not missing. Exactly. After that, we're going to go on.
Best man. That was dope.
Listen, I can't wait on a guy's speech and make people cry.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna try to go on a spending diet and just like see how much money can we not spend, because like that's what's killing us. It's not like are we making less? It's crazy, right? And I like to say like, hey, I'm not a consumer, but like again, I have a nice watch, I have this, so I'll be a minimalist. But like, what does it look like to not buy anything besides like literally put a budget down, right? And then be like, okay, this is how much we need for food, this is the house, bills, etc., and then not spend $1 over that. And then
challenge accepted.
For me, it's because I'm the ultimate. Like I won't spend any money at all, then buy a $3,000 computer. So like this is gonna be a super interesting thing, specifically for me. My wife is so freaking frugal; it's disgusting. She'll buy a piece of clothing and she'll be like, "I let everyone in my family down." I say it's because she's Jewish, but it comes naturally to her. As for me, I'm super frugal, but like that's super interesting. So like if the BlackRock situation is shitty, but like in the face of shittiness, I'm just like, okay, like what's my adjustment? Because like that's the only thing I know. Like, right, I just do shitty stuff, right? Like there's a 300-pound man that kept hitting me in the head. I was just like, okay, well, how do we sort this out? Because you can't quit, right? Like, what are our options?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The option is to adapt and overcome.
100%.
And as Americans, that's the thing that we've always done best. And it is the one thing that is being drilled into our heads nowadays that we are all incapable of doing, that the government has to do it for us.
Do the dirty work that the billionaires don't want to do.
Exactly. And that's...
She gonna do the dirty work?
Oh!
Ooh, what song is that? I missed it.
That's a Little Dicky song.
Oh, Little Dicky.
Yeah.
Is that Let Me Freak?
No. Just called Dirty Work.
It's called Dirty
Okay.
Work.
I'll listen to it after. Also, should watch Dave if you haven't.
Oh, fuck yeah, I've been watching
I
Dave.
still haven't watched
Yeah.
Dave.
Oh.
I'm almost done with
You
How I
have
Met
to.
Your Mother again, though.
It's
We're
Dave
almost
is
done. We're halfway through the next to last season.
Dave is beyond.
Just trying to fire that thing out so I can move on with my life. It is
Yeah,
taking over again.
We watched that, and then now we're watching Modern Family. So
I did like Modern Family a lot.
Ending of the season 2 of Dave, when he spits that rap on Hot 97 or whatever. I've listened to that freestyle numerous times since I've watched that episode of the show, just because it goes so fucking hard.
Yeah, you know how this is how I know that I hate myself. I like to listen to the song that he makes with the girlfriend from this episode before, and I listen to that clip. And every morning I start off just crying into my camera, like, yeah, this is what I need. This is how I can feel again. It's like crazy. I get super because like it's insane. I don't want to ruin it for Colin. So Colin, when you watch it, please let me know so I can actually like we can deep dive. But
you can spoiler the hell out of it. It's fine.
It's so good.
I won't appreciate it any less.
It's because like no. Just watch it. I want you to feel it. I don't want you to be prepared for it. But yeah,
are they 10-episode seasons like everything else nowadays?
Yeah, about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll fire
and they're like
shit
30
in,
minutes.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
it was on FX, so it's a network, so 27 minutes, 24 minutes, whatever, yeah.
If you're watching How I Met Your Mother, you'll kill this in probably a day.
Perfect.
Like no exaggeration, you'll probably kill it in a day.
And I have a feeling that wifey will not have any interest in watching that, so I could put it on while I'm doing my show work and all that, and I'll just fire through it.
She could probably take it or leave it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing her, she could probably take it or leave it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm excited.
No, highly recommend it. Just on that note, so I can talk about it. I don't want to ruin the show. We'll get right back on track.
Let's hear it.
My Twitch sub comes back today, so I did not forget to do it. So she'll get it tomorrow.
You the man.
I subscribe to his wife's Twitch channel because I support my friends.
That's right. That's
what
right.
I do.
That's why he's here today with us, gracing us with all this. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. We've only been going for an hour,
something like that.
Something like that. I lost my my YouTube feed. I had to
half.
pull it up here, but yeah, a little over an hour, and I have just been soaking knowledge, man.
Yeah.
This has been extremely wonderful.
I think that's like the one thing, and I think that's why I want to come on your network because like I don't think you guys do a bad job. I don't think you guys could talk enough because I literally think this needs to be like just around the finance side. It needs to be a daily like reinforcement. Like so much like we are training people to get mad in the face of people making money.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
And like imagine Colin, you built out one of the sickest like setups I've seen, right? Imagine every time you ran into a problem with your setup, instead of being like, what the fuck just happened? How do I fix this? Et cetera. You're just like, man, I'm so mad at this company because I can't figure this out. That's what we've decided to do with finance. Instead of just being like, okay, how do they make it? Like they're saying, hey, there's so much income disparity. Instead of being like, okay, how do I make money? They're like, I hate you for making money.
Yep. Just
imagine not shooting, right? Imagine shooting every time that you couldn't shoot instead of being like, oh, let me just learn, like, let me work on my form, my breathing, et cetera. Like, let me blame my gut.
Fucking Glock.
Exactly.
You would look like an idiot. Be like, oh, this gun sucks. Everybody like, what do you mean the gun sucks, right? And so, like, that's why I think it's just, like, our patterns are so off. And, like, we kind of talked about it last time with crypto, where like you were like, I can't, and it was literally the only time I've ever heard you say I can't in your life. It's when you're like, oh, I can't invest crypto, like I can't do this, like I don't understand, blah blah blah. When we first had our crypto conversation,
Yeah.
and then I was just like, $2 you're like, okay, actually this is fine, like actually it makes sense, actually it's okay, it's fine, and like that's what I want people to see, like think about the people right now, and you guys see them, you walk them all day, who aren't thinking about investing in anything, aren't thinking about their budget, have copious amounts of credit card debt, and they're going to buy a new car. Like that's the person I'm worried about in BlackRock. I'm not worried about you guys because you guys will win, right? Because you guys, you have skills, you guys can lead, you showed a propensity to be a self-starter, so you guys are gonna win. In America, that wins, right? Like you may not win now, but Colonel Sanders got started at 69, won. So I'm not worried about you guys winning. But there's people who are not self-starters. They are not reading the news. They are not trying to learn. They are not questioning everything. They're taking everything as status quo. And then there's like you take the whole field of finances. It's so convoluted, and so you combine those two together, they're fucked.
Yep. Yeah,
Like,
they're so terrified of trying to look at it or trying to get into it because there is zero understanding, because it is complicated and convoluted as fuck, that they just choose to get up, go to work, come home, do the same thing over again the next day, and just say, I'm all right here. It's the, and I almost hate to do this, but like it's the the build back better mentality. I mean, Americans historically have always charged through diversity or adversity, not diversity, adversity. We'll get into that in a minute.
Fuck diversity.
But we've always charged through adversity and come out better on the back end because we've innovated, we've adapted, and we've overcome. Yeah. And people nowadays have just drilled it into their head that no, you are just a victim of the billionaires and the powerful and the elites, and then you don't stand a chance. So it's just better that we should just give you money. You don't have to worry about it. You shouldn't be having to struggle and hustle and try to get through the bad times. You should just be used to the status quo, and when the status quo changes, you should freak out and then go run and beg for help.
Which sits with me as an intrinsically Marxist ideology. You know what I'm saying? At its core, that which is very interesting. It's very dangerous, But as I'm trying to think about what you're talking about, when we're thinking about that term we were saying, the permanent rental class, right?
Yeah.
The person I have personally heard use that term the most is Crystal Ball.
Oh, really?
Who is very progressive.
Yes.
You know who Crystal is? Crystal and Soccer, you watch like Breaking Points now that used to be writing. Yeah. So she's the person I've heard use that term the most, the permanent rental class. Mm-hmm. And so just as I'm thinking about it, she's obviously progressive, very left, Yeah. And so that idea and kind of the logical end that you're carrying it out to just screams to me as like an idea, an ideology based in Marxism. That's like, fuck those big companies. Fuck they're extracting wealth from you. They're extracting labor from you. You're putting the work in. They're taking the profits. They don't deserve it. You deserve it. We'll take care of you because we care about you.
When the message should be, there is nothing to stop you from being the next Jeff Bezos. There is nothing to stop you from being that.
Right.
Except for your own ignorance and unwillingness to put in the work.
And that seems to be the message that the Republicans are struggling to get out. Because they're slowly, and I don't remember who, I've heard a lot of people talk about this, but the Republicans are slowly taking that mantle of the party of the working people, because that ideology, I'm talking about that ideology of that is now of the Democrats, that these people are fucking you over, you can't handle it, we have to take care of you. That's not a working man's ideology.
No.
That's a Marxist ideology. That is and this is not like a denigrative thing, that's a poor person's ideology. You can't make money, you can't succeed, you can't do this, we have to take care of you. Where the Republicans are in a
not a great way, but
in a very foggy way, telling you to work harder and to be the better person, and you can achieve this. This thing you're hating about BlackRock, you can have this. But that's a hard thing to sell to people who are already being taught and raised to hate that ideology. If you're being taught to hate BlackRock, you don't want to become BlackRock. You don't want to make money like them. You want to fuck BlackRock.
Yeah, I do.
That's
100%.
But I want to do it in their terms.
That's very interesting. This was we just closed a thought circle for me. That's very, very interesting.
High five, brother. That was
And
good.
I think
That's
it's
a clip.
please clip. I love the clips. Bring back the clips.
Yeah.
Hashtag bring back the clips. And I think that's super interesting that you came here, right? Because like if you look at high school, for you specifically, Colin, I didn't go to high school with you, but I went with Don, and I knew Don very, very short, and I wouldn't even say that we weren't close at all. I don't even think we talked. We probably talked a couple times, but
He
in
just
school,
knew you because you were a superstar. So
I wasn't even a superstar. I barely played. But like you were seen as like bad or an outcast because you didn't want to fall in line with the school rules, right? And on a level, right? There's within reason. You shouldn't hate kids, you know, don't rape people, et cetera, et cetera. But like we build our whole entire up from kids, like our whole infrastructure is built around telling kids like do exactly this. Your feelings are actually validated, like you are good enough. And if you ever get outside of that, where like your free thought is the reason why you were seen as an outcast, not so much of the bad things, but like the whole uprising, you're just like that. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do this? This makes no sense. This is stupid. And everyone's just like, okay, well, that's not what you're supposed to do. Like we don't empower people to think.
Right.
Like, we're just like, be here, do this, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. And then we get out and then we're like, why isn't anyone thinking? It's just like, because they've been conditioned never to deviate from the status quo.
Right.
They've been taught that like every idea you have is great. Like I love Coach Munkin because he spent an entire year telling me that like the effort that I thought was good enough, the product that I was bringing to practice I thought was good enough wasn't good enough. My mom was raised on, she would throw away my second place trophies. We would really, really push against anything but first place because winning matters, right? And so like we're killing the, like winning doesn't matter. Free thinking isn't empowered. And we're just forcing people to then be okay with those things, like those effects of those causes. Like, for example, being fat like the fat positivity.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like, oh, we're still good. And I'm just like, why should you think your body's good? Like, what have you done today to earn the way you look? Like, not the girl, like everyone's like, oh, well, this girl paid for it. I don't, that's why I like bodybuilders. Not because of anything, but like, oh, they take steroids. They also spend all their fucking time for just the minutia of a product, and that's why they care about it.
Yeah.
But then we have these people that just eat burgers all day, fat as fuck. Like, well, I should still matter. I should be. Why?
Yeah, why?
What value are you bringing?
Right.
You're fat and ugly.
Settling for mediocrity.
Yeah.
Which like you posted, you shared something on your story, maybe just yesterday or the day before. That was that coach talking about winning and how hard it is to win and how much more you have to put in to win and how even if you want to try and win, you still have to put in all that effort and you still may not win in the end. You know? And that risk, right, which is the same. This is one of my favorite podcasts already right here. But just because of how much thinking I'm doing within myself, I'm appreciating what you guys are doing for me. So it's the same thing of, I don't know what I was just talking about, taking the risk, putting in the extra effort of
winning, mattering,
trying to make money, right? Of the same thing of like being BlackRock, you're putting in that extra money, right? When that is bred out of people taking that extra risk, they don't want to do it because the mediocrity is there. It's acceptable, right? So 100%. Why would I take the risk or put in all of that extra effort for it to just be a risk, for it to not be a guaranteed win when my mediocrity is acceptable? I'm fine just right here. Yes. Why would I take the risk and put in so much extra effort if I'm not guaranteed to win on the back end?
And then
because
when
that's
you
not what winning is about.
That fucking cake with the concept that the rich that have gotten there have only gotten there because they're bad people who've taken advantage of other people, and they demonize that class. They say you shouldn't be that.
So your work is even
those
less
people
valuable.
are evil.
Yeah.
So you should be mediocre. You
it's
should just be
risk.
satisfied with mediocrity because those people are bad. And if you try to do that, you're an evil person as well.
Right.
100%. And I think it's great. And like I'm chills. Like I love
this is good.
I love this moment. And like this is what it is. Like we work until our eyes bleed. We probably work harder than CEOs. We probably stress more than CEOs. It matters more than us, but because it's winning. Like winning does not give a shit what we have done, what we will do, where we're going, what like in comparison, it only cares about the result. And that feels like shit. So instead of reveling in that, like, hey, I gave everything to then lose, instead of reveling in like, I'm not good enough with where I am. We want to go feel good when you want to feel bad. I'm telling you, I love feeling bad. I'm telling you, again, that's why I'm doing the fucking Ironman because like because right, it gives you something to work towards. Like I ran my 2 mile and it's disgraceful. It's like 20-minute 2 mile. It's disgusting. It's slow as fuck, but I love
feel
it.
really bad about myself right now.
Yeah, but my friends are running like 13. Like my friend texted me. This is literally how the conversation went. It said Jeff Bacon. He posted a picture on his Instagram. Said best shoes I've ever had. I respond with Brooks is the way to go. Another shoe company. His response was, those shoes won't have you running a sub 2 minute, 13-minute mile. A sub 13 2 mile. He literally said I wasn't fast enough to have the conversation with him. That's one of my good friends. Literally said I'm not fast enough to discuss shoes. That feeling felt really fucking bad.
Yeah,
that
like
moment
ASIC's the only way to go, so it's fine.
Listen, I'm not fast enough, but like it's a good like that loss just it fueled me. Like the competition, I don't know. That's the only reason. Like I think I went like because I like competing. Like when you punch me in the mouth, I fucking I lick my wounds the same as everybody else. But I like getting back in the game, going swimming. And not swimming 25 yards, I literally start to fascinate. Like, oh my god, what's it going to be like to swim 2 miles straight? And like,
It's bad.
I'm
bad.
I'll
tell you that right now. I've done that before.
I hope to experience that kind of pain. And I just, again, when you put in the work, when I'm telling you, like the best thing you'll ever do, I guarantee you're going to buy a house, and when you fix that house up, you'll never feel better.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to feel fun, great, because it's the work you put it. And I mean, Colin, you built a business, so it just matters. But like the gratification that you get when like your visions start to come true. And I know some of your visions have come true because you start hiring people, which lets me know that you're doing it at a higher level. And so like when those visions come true, like how do you explain to someone who's never wanted to go like eat what they kill, like that kind of like no one's gonna understand that emotion.
Oh yeah.
Like when they're just like, hey, like I collect unemployment. Like you don't go home and collect unemployment. You go to work the next day so you can, have your employees feed their kids. Like they'll never understand that kind of want to. And that's what I try to impress on people. Like if someone if they beat you, it just means that lane, like if they're on the highway, you have to take a back road, which still means you get there.
Yep.
And so like that's why I hate the Congress. That's why I become so adamantly, not even against, but that's why I get so angry at the Democrats, because instead of being a blocker and accentuating people's games, they literally say, don't play the game anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why I get so frustrated. Like, that's why I don't like Build Back Better, Make America Great Again. They're the same way. There's literally the same thing. But one doesn't want you to play anymore and wants to stop everyone from playing the game, and then wants to give you your orange slices. The other one wants you to fucking get out there and play your fucking game. Let it compare to everybody fucking else's, and then let's evaluate it. And that's what used to make us great. Like that's what used to rust us for.
Yeah. And I want to just chime into this concept too, because the way we have just sat here and talked about this for a minute, it's the old, pull yourself up from your bootstraps kind of argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is definitely a double-edged sword, because
Certainly.
that I am the king of not giving myself credit. Everything I do is never good enough, and it helps drive me forward. But it also can simultaneously turn you into a downward spiral of depression and anxiety, and it could backfire. And it is a delicate road you have to walk. You have to have that drive, and you have to push, and you have to get knocked down, and you have to use that as motivation to go forward. But at the same time, that struggle, I mean, the reason you call it a struggle, you call it a hustle, is because it is a struggle the whole time. It's not something that maybe in the moment is going to feel good. It's hard to do. It'll keep you awake at night. It'll make you hate yourself depending on how you're handling every single day. And, some days are better than others, and this, that, and the other thing. But it's so simple to strip it all away and bring it down to its foundation and just say hustle, 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 push, 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 work your fucking balls off, take your lumps, and keep going. But you also have to be a strong enough person to deal with all of that adversity that's getting thrown your way, because the ends will justify the means, and you will go through it and you will come out better on the back end. But it's not like it's a great time as you go forward. It's not this
No.
fun endeavor. I mean, being an entrepreneur is not it's not awesome to gamble your entire livelihood on the choices that only you can make.
100%.
Right.
And it's tough. So I just want to make sure that there is a reality check here for all of us, because we all hustle. We all hustle our
Yeah.
asses off, and we all work hard. But I'd be lying if I say there's not a toll to be paid.
Certainly, and I think that goes back at least in part to like a movie or whatever. Someone would be like, "Well, no one would said it was going to be easy," and I think that is true. But
is
I
true.
think that's because the people who get to the end of that don't talk about how hard it was. You know what I'm saying? Once you've reached success, you don't sit there and think about, "Oh, so fucking difficult to get here. I had to work so fucking hard." You're like, "Look at how fucking successful I am."
Yep.
Fuck all that. I'm done with it. I'm past that. I'm past the hard work. I'm past the hustle. I'm living now. And it's not like you then become complacent, but you don't sit there and think about how difficult it was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Especially because that struggle by that point was worth it.
Right.
The juice was worth the squeeze.
Yeah, and it's I personally, right, I run into that all the time when you check a post and you got 12 likes, you know what I'm saying? Something that was 5 days ago, you know what I'm saying? Some shit like that.
Yes.
They're like, this is fine. Last night, Brett Weinstein has his video pulled off when they're of
Pissed
the
me
expert
off.
who has been working on coronavirus since the beginning.
It's one of the greatest podcasts I've ever seen.
They both, by any possible measure, have more than enough qualifications to be discussing everything they talked about, and for some reason it's still pulled down, right? See things like that all the time. I'm telling to Jordan about it. I'm just telling him, like, this is not good. Like, this is not a good thing that we're seeing here, And she's like, well, and she's like, you picked like a hard business to go in. I was like, it's not that. I was like, I'm not worried about myself. It's like, I'm not deterred by this, right? It's that is not it. Just that this isn't good. Like, I'm not deterred by it. It doesn't make me want to stop doing what I'm doing. No. I'm just saying, that's not good. This is not a good sign. When Facebook stopped taking money from us, fuck you then. I'm going to go on my show, and every time I talk about it, I'm going to say, fuck Facebook.
Yep.
Every time I mention your name, I'm going to say, fuck you. So that when we're famous, we're making millions of dollars, I can sit in a studio in front of all of my employees, and I can say, fuck Facebook. Because 10 years ago, they wouldn't take my fucking money. And now here we are. I'm more than willing to eat that. You know what I'm saying?
It's going to feel so good.
That's what I'm saying.
Jordan gives me shit all the time because I'm always trying to, like, I'm so fucking fat. Like, do I look terrible? Do I look like this? Like, do I fucking look like this? But that's because now I'm at the gym, and when I'm done being at the gym and I'm a fucking savage, I'm like, I just look so fucking good. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. Like, that is the strive of, like, it's dark. It's a twisted thing, but I've also heard that same thing from pretty much every successful person I've ever heard write a book, tell a story, do anything. Like, you almost have to hate yourself into being better, It's dark. It's not cute.
Road.
It's like you said, it fucks with your brain. If you don't handle it the right way, it can be very dangerous. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to kill myself because I think I'm fat, but I tell myself I'm fat almost every day so I can strive to be where I want to be physically. Not totally healthy. It's a little bit dark, like I said, but that's the easiest way for me to manifest greatness within myself on a physical level, is to be like, you look fucking gross, let's hit the gym tomorrow and I'm going to crush it, and then I'm going to be killing it. You know what I'm saying?
And we all have ways to do it. I mean, like, my thing, I'm like blissfully unhappy.
You just almost drown yourself at 25 yards and you're like, one day I can swim 2 miles.
But if I can compete, that's why the Ironman is important, because I found a new competition.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. Like, and so now I'm like, this is why I know I'll work till I die. I will work on my deathbed. I'll be typing the fucking tax forms up, and I'm just gonna fucking keel over, because like, I cannot function without a direction. If I was directionless, I'm just gonna be eating pizzas on my fucking couch, just fucking probably I've watching every single anime ever created, probably playing video games. I'd be 795,000 pounds.
Wait, Larry, you like anime?
I love anime.
Okay, we're going to talk later.
Yeah, listen.
This will be good.
Listen, I'm a massive anime person. I think that I love anime because Goku was my first. The hero arc is like, I get emotional. Like, My Hero Academia, I'll tear up sometimes. Like Naruto, I'll tear up because like everything we're talking about is encompassed in him. All it is a manifestation of my self-thought that I'm not good enough, but refusing. All football was like, I'm not good enough to be a running back, but I want to be a running back. So, which meant I have to do everything. I didn't do anything in high school because, like, literally, I was like, Goku didn't go out. I don't go out. Like, Naruto's in the gym training because he wasn't good enough. I'm in the gym training. So I just wouldn't do anything because, like, in my head, like, I had to sacrifice everything I was in order to be what I wanted to be. And that's what that's what all animes are. At least all the anime ones I watch, right? It's literally the sacrificing of themselves to achieve the skills to then return home having gotten the thing they need to accomplish the goal they want.
And Vegeta's my spirit animal.
I've seen a lot of things recently, right? And it's hit home with me because I've started to get up earlier, right? So I'm sleeping less. So I've seen a lot of like memes and shit, tweets being posted of like, let's stop normalizing, overworking and like working too hard, and like you need enough sleep, you need to work on yourself. And I said, hit home because I'm waking up early. I'm waking up at 3, first of all, to make more money, and then also so I can go to the gym before I go to work some days, like so I can do these things. To me, that makes the most sense. Like, that's, if I want to do the things that I want to do, I have to work harder to achieve that. I have to put myself in an uncomfortable position to make sure that I can do these things. And so it's an interesting thing to see that, especially coming from people my age that are like, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing these things. So I'm like, it seems like that's what I should be doing. If I want to be achieving these things, this seems like the only way to get it done. So I don't know why I wouldn't be doing these things. If I want to be able to go to the gym, the best time for me to do that, not sacrifice time with my kid, not sacrifice money at work, not sacrifice other things, is to wake up earlier, sleep for a little bit less, get a savage fucking workout in, go to the gym, come home, get my time with my kid, and then do whatever I want. Like that, you know what I'm saying? So it's so odd to hear that, but it's clarified almost more in this conversation of like, that is just a settling, in my opinion, right? Everybody has their own thing, so I don't think any of us are judging anybody for the choices they make or anything like that, because of our personal ideologies, our political ideology. I'm going to speak for both of you. None of us give a fuck what anybody else does in their personal life.
Man ought to do what he thinks is best.
It's not our business. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect our lives. So we're not judging anybody if they want to be fat, if they want to not make money, if they want to do whatever. We wouldn't do that. We're not judging, right? So, but it's Larry's judging, but it is an odd thing to see that idea, to identify that ideology and that thought process in people. And to see it just in the shit that they share on social media of like, stop doing that, like stop working as hard as you can, stop pushing yourself to the limit to try and do whatever because you think it's the right thing to do. When, like I said, I'm like, I don't see any other way to maximum success other than to make yourself uncomfortable to get to that point,
Yeah. And I think that's my biggest frustration with like the body positivity, right? Because obviously I see a person, I'm going to judge them in my head. I never go out of my way to then tell somebody something that's going to make them feel bad, right? Like how a woman looks, how a man looks, how they carry themselves. I like you said, I don't give a shit, right? Like, I have my judgments, but I feel like when you voice your judgments to then try to bring someone down, you're a douchebag, right? You're
definitely an asshole. Yes.
100%. But I feel like when everyone's like, yo, let's normalize taking days off. But then we never say the thing. We never say, let's like, whenever it's like normalizing, like happiness, etc. We never talk about achieving, right? We never say normalizing achieving. Because like, if you break down, like what successful people do, right? Like if you lay them all out, right? And I'll send you this book. It's called Black Swan. I thought it was tremendous. The thing, do you know that the number one thing every successful person has? It's not smarts, it's not intelligence, it's not ingenuity, it's not being like, it's not thinking smarter than people, it's not finding creative ways. The number one thing every single creative person does is they collect opportunities. Right? So when you're like, hey, I woke up early, because you're collecting opportunities to be great, because you're like, hey, I want to do X, be in great shape without sacrificing Y, right? Which is time with your son and your family. Your family time's like, I'm not fucking losing that. So you're like, okay, if you're not going to take that 2 hours to work out, how are you going to collect those fucking opportunities? You're not going to collect them fucking sleeping. So you're like, I'm going to wake up 3 hours, not because you want to get in the gym, not because you want to look at it, because I need to collect opportunities. That's literally in my mind is a sign to be great. And that's why like, this last year, really COVID, because we were trapped, is like, I don't unfollow people. I don't shit on people. I don't comment, but I have started unfollowing people who are not in the mindset. Because I literally think when like someone comes up to you, it's just like, why are you waking up early? In my head, I literally don't see them anymore. Because like, you're fucking tired when you wake up. So I don't want an excuse. I don't want any negative thought that's going to detract. Like, for example, when I have to run 26 miles, everyone's like, why are you running 26 miles? Because I'm going to fucking do it. And so you're either at that point, like, let's fucking run 26 miles, or you're not. You're not out of my life, but we're going to talk less because I can't afford it. Like, everybody, like, people are like, why are you staying up to 3 o'clock in the morning doing tax returns? Like, because I'm building a fucking business. If your second thing is like, well, you should sleep more, we're just going to talk less. Because like these are what this is for our lives. We're not gonna sacrifice. I'm in the army. I have a wife. I have things I want to do. I like playing video games. These are where the opportunities are to collect, right?
Yeah.
You can't do fucking everything. So like, sure, go be happy. Like, sure, like let's normalize being at peace. Like, sure, let's normalize getting more sleep. But why are the people who are normalizing getting more sleep angry? Because I'm talking about doing more and getting less sleep. Like, why are you? It's always people who say let's normalize doing X that are looking at me and then judging me because I don't want to do X. I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be happy. I want to achieve. I want more. It's probably the sickest thing about me. I want to be BlackRock, and I'll tell fucking everybody. Like, everyone's like, what's your number? My number's always been more. And everyone's like, why? Because I've had less. So I want to try having more. And everyone's like, well, it's about happiness. I'm like, cool. I'm not trying to be happy. I want more. And so that's my only thing with this whole like body positivity, the normalizing X. Like, that shit pisses me off because every time they normalize it, they always want to go talk some shit about the other dude who's not normalizing it. Like you go be happy. You get 12 hours of sleep. You eat all the pizza you want to. I'm fucking hyped, but like, stop bringing your negative shit or your shit over here. Like, it doesn't fit here. It's round. You're a square. It's
Square
rant.
peg,
No,
round hole.
no, I think that's good,
Yeah.
and I think that it leads us into semi-naturally into the topic of a labor shortage, right?
Yeah,
Because
100%.
that's, I think that it's a
That sounds
decent
about right.
segue, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about this a little bit last episode when Zeke was on,
Yeah.
and then we obviously talked to Larry about it last weekend when he called. You know, he had a whole thing. So we're going to talk a little about labor shortage, and then we're going to let you lay out your whole thing because I think that people need to hear it, especially in a more broken down fashion. So the labor shortage that we're talking about, right? And I'm sure most people listening to this have at least seen some evidence of it, right? Because now the most prevalent place I've seen it personally is in fast food, but it's
Yes.
happening all over the place. But fast food has big signs where they can advertise things they're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Is that there are places, businesses across the country, whether it's a small mom and pop shop or it is a fast food place, a big corporation, they are unable to find enough workers to fully staff their businesses. And so, like I said, I think when Zeke was on, I talked about when we went to Dewada, we stopped at Burger King, got some nuggies to eat on the way out to the campsite, and the sign on the speaker box is like, we have limited hours because we can't fill all of our shifts. We don't have enough employees, and we can't find enough. A fucking Burger King.
Yep.
Super weird, right? So naturally, Jordan and I have an enormous conversation about labor shortage, how this is happening, why it's happening, right? And so I'm going to just share just kind of some big things, you know, some main talking points people are spitting out, and then we'll kind of go from there, right? So one of the big things that I'm hearing is, well, they need to just pay more, right? Everyone just needs to pay more, right? I think in some instances, that's very correct. There are definitely some people who deserve to be making more money than they're making. I think one thing that gets left out of that a lot is there are some jobs, and I know we talked about this with Zeke, there are some jobs that aren't meant to sustain you for your entire life, right? That's part of, in my opinion, right? And fast food is probably one of those jobs, right? An entry-level job at a McDonald's, at a Burger King, at a Wendy's is not meant to sustain you from the time that you're 18 to the time that you're 65 and you're supposed to retire. It's not designed to be that, right?
Yeah.
To work at the front counter of that restaurant. It's not designed that way, right? And that type of job exists in many, many different fields. But people's, as we talked about, the willingness to accept mediocrity, to accept where you're at, to not push harder, keeps many people at that jobs, and then expecting to
should be taken care of.
to be 40 years old, to be a cashier at McDonald's, and still, but I want to live in a house all by myself. That's not how this job is designed, right? In that, I think feeds a lot of, I don't know, I'm sure the lefters would call it like ageism. You know, there are a lot of people, for one reason or another, older people occupying jobs that in the same way they're not meant to sustain you for your whole life, are meant for young people who have lower cost of living, right? Who don't have copious amounts of debt, who don't have student loan debt, who don't have car payment who don't have X, Y, or Z, right?
The low skill, low wage jobs.
Are meant for a someone who is entering the labor market to make a beginning wage to then get an apartment or some shit like that. Like that's what that job is for, right? And that I think gets left out a lot,
Because
right?
a lot of people don't recognize that showing up to work on time, doing your job, and leaving on time is a skill all in its own. And that's what those jobs are designed for you to learn so that you can move on and move up and continue to carry that forward and gain more skills so you could be more marketable. And yes, that is 100%, I think, totally true, especially when you look at the fast food industry. It's not designed. It's not, let's put it this way. Almost no job that anybody's ever going to get is designed around the life of that employee. It's not.
Right.
You are fulfilling a need that is required for your business to operate. That's what that is designed to do. And they have the effect of being a minimum wage job. You could hire a monkey off the street.
Right.
And as long as they could press the buttons and do the basic things, they could do the job and your business will make a profit at the end. It will operate normally and the business will function so that job will still be there tomorrow. That's the way I would kind of put it.
Sorry, go ahead, Larry.
No, and I agree with everything I said. And like this is, and again, I don't want to go back, but I'm going to go back to come forward. Like this is why I liked Ayn Rand. She was the first person to ever tell me, or I guess or first time I ever read, like you're the hero of your own story.
Yes.
Meant that I was the architect of my life, right? And that's my problem with the school system bottled down is that they're not asking us, what do you want to do, right? They're telling us to do X, Y, Z. They're giving us tasks. So we get to a job. If you don't know what you want to do or where you want to go, you're just going to do it, like do the thing there. And you're going to think you deserve to make money. Mm-hmm. The hard facts are you are worth what you get, like the value you provide. You don't have as much value as a fast food person because like you said, it was never supposed to be that. And that's the point of kind of becoming the architect of your life. Sure. Is that when you're at the job, you're only just grabbing the tools you need to get to the next level. So like my friends who are like just in various jobs, like they know what they want to end at. So every time they go into a job, they're asking like, what can I get from this job, right? So like when they're not getting the number they want to get on their paycheck, they're still grabbing the tools and the different things that they want to get to their end goal. People don't have an end goal. And so they subsist in this level and then they get mad at the level they are at the bottom of the rung isn't giving them the life that they desire. Because like they know the things they want, but they don't know what you have to do. Mm-hmm. In order to earn money, you have to provide service or value to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the day, you're only worth as much as somebody's going to be willing to pay for it.
Yes.
100%.
Whatever it is that you're going to output, whatever product or service you're going to provide, somebody is going to need to want to pay for that.
Right. So
and it's been the way labor has worked from its inception. Back when having a job in America was looked down upon, was basically meant that like you were seen as somebody who couldn't make it on your own. You couldn't do whatever it was to provide for your life and your family's life.
You're a leech. You
are a leech on someone else. And that ultimately evolved into all sorts of different things because of the Industrial Revolution and, so on. And at the end of the day, it's not a bad thing that there are people that work manufacturing and do these different, we'll just say low skill type of jobs.
God damn it, I'm a fucking manufacturer.
I didn't want to use manufacturing. I didn't want to click that button, but I mean, like, I'm thinking like old school textile factories and stuff like that.
Medical professional, okay?
Because in some capacity, you need that kind of socialization of the workforce, the labor force, to produce products that not a single individual can produce on their own.
Yeah.
And so, which has benefited society as a whole greatly. I mean, one person out there is not going to start Apple all by themselves and just for the perpetuity of Apple, just be the one guy who works there and mass produces the iPhone. It's just not going to happen, right?
Nope.
So you need to spread that out and share the workload to put out that ultimate final product. And so obviously going back and looking at those two comparisons side by side isn't exactly apt.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think the fundamental truth of not relying on somebody to give you a living just by signing your life over to them and giving them your sole production capability is not where you should be mentally at in your mind. You should be there as an ends to a means.
So I want to address one more point and then address what you said, because I think that brings us to our natural kind of point of contention of this big issue, right? One more point to the pay them more, to the effect of pay them more, is there are many, many, many small businesses, and small businesses, for the record, tend to pay above minimum wage because that's just how those things roll, right?
Yeah.
There are many, many, many small businesses who can't afford to pay more than what they were paying before, partially because they generally pay over minimum wage, also because the margins for small businesses run so thin, right? So now to address your point that I think, like I said, brings us to our natural point of contention for the labor shortage, is there are many people, and at a rate that's getting lower, but many people who were on unemployment throughout the pandemic, right, who received unemployment insurance. The original increase was $600. It is now $300, right? We are now seeing upwards of 20 states that are going to take these benefits away in the next 2 weeks or so. They've already passed bills that are going to do those things, right?
And or so at the very least requiring that seeking of work.
Yes,
I've seen that.
Yeah, and so which is already a federal, like it's already required federally, but there are also about 1,500 ways to kind of get around that, you know. And that's the big thing, is that the federal government is like, oh, well, you already still have to be looking for a job. Yeah, I'm fucking sure you do. My sister and my mom lived on unemployment for over a year. Didn't hardly look for any jobs, and that's not to denigrate them. That's how that was at the time. You know, it is what it is. But like, if nobody's overseeing that, you know, if you're able to just write in the names of businesses that and no one's going to call and check if you went there, you don't really have an incentive to actually look for a job, right? But so the big point of contention, I think, with this issue is the unemployment insurance, right? There are many people who are arguing that were a lot of people making more money on unemployment that is then deterring them from going back to their old job, because they're either making just as much, around as much, or not enough, you know, to go back to their old job, or more than they were making before. And what?
Jordan says Mark Penn featuring Lil Ricky.
That's what the song is. Dirty Work. Work. Mark Penn. Yeah, Jesus Christ. That
must be Little Dicky then.
Yeah. You were so fun. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you
for actually helping me.
Hilarious.
A detractor.
Yeah. And so this has been kind of the point of contention here, is a lot of people arguing that this unemployment insurance, this increase to the unemployment insurance, is what is deterring people from going back to work. And a lot of people, including up until like 5 minutes ago, the federal government making that same or making the argument that it wasn't, right? That this is helping people get along. It's not stopping them from going back to work, because you have to be looking for a job anyway. And if someone offers you a job, you have to take it. And, you know, all these things that, again, certainly by the books are true, but in the applicable fashion are not true. If we can't even, as a federal government, force everyone to pay the taxes that we're required of them, in what world are we thinking that we can actually call and check on every single person who, of the millions and millions of people who are claiming unemployment, 3.8 or 5.8% of the country, right?
Yep.
How do we expect that is going to be the thing, right? And one thing that I learned that I think is a very important point, I learned just 2 days ago, the difference between the unemployment rate and
labor participation.
Yes, labor participation, right? So, and this is not for you guys, for everybody who's listening, the unemployment rate, the percentage that we're seeing, I think is 5.8 right now. I think at the top was like 12% or some shit like that. That is actually the percentage of the country that is actively looking for work.
Yep.
That's not the percentage of the country that doesn't have a job.
Yep.
That's the percentage of the country that is actively looking for work, right?
Yep.
I didn't know that until like 2 days ago.
Oh yeah,
right.
And historically, that's been a cheap political tool to always use, as things are way better than they are, because unemployment's way down.
And we find this out, right? Because the employment participation percentage, right, which is the kind of the truer depiction of how many people really have jobs, right, is actually down 1.5% since February, like 1.6, 1.7% since February, right? That means that there are that many less people who have jobs now than they did in February.
Yeah.
Which
it's about another 5 million people.
Which doesn't seem to make much sense.
Because ideally, when you look at the labor participation rate, if it's sitting around 61-something%, like I think I saw in that article you sent us the other day,
yes,
you would imagine that the unemployment rate would be the equal to, would be the remainder to equal 100%, right?
Yes.
It should be like 30%. So that way 60, 30, you roughly
Not totally, because you're going to have a lot of
10%,
people, stay-at-home moms. Like, there's going to be a big gap in that number of
There is
stay-at-home moms,
definitely gonna be a
stay-at-home
gap.
dads, like people who are self-employed, things like that don't feed into those numbers. But
It's true.
I think the point that you're making, or the point to that, is that you certainly wouldn't expect both of those numbers to be going down.
Yeah.
How do you have less people working and less people looking for jobs, but like there's obviously something missing there.
Yeah.
What is allowing people to be working less jobs and be looking for jobs less? What's the third factor in there?
The math don't quite add up.
And so there's a big question. This will be actually one of our very first videos. Will be from Jen Psaki, because up until, like I said, the 8th, I think, they were adamant that the unemployment insurance had nothing to do with any of this. The increased unemployment insurance had nothing to do with this.
Which
And so
has
I
been
can
a talking
actually-
point on the Republican side from the get-go of the initial negotiations, to say you are going to disincentivize people from going to work because they will be making more per week than they would at any job that pays you $20 an hour.
And some other tactics the federal government is using, right, just before I play these videos, because you were talking about the unemployment rate kind of being used as like, well, look how good it is, right? So they're also on the 3rd, they're showing charts that are showing the initial unemployment claims have gone down since January. That means people who lost their job and then filed unemployment for the first time. No shit. No fucking shit. The whole country is going back to work. No shit. There are less people filing initial unemployment claims. If businesses can't find employees, they're not going to be quick to fire people.
Yeah.
No shit. So that's just, and so I say that
No
because I
shit!
think it's important, not for you guys, obviously, but for people watching, to pay really close attention to the things that they're saying, because that only makes logical sense. In January, things were still closed. We were all still wearing masks. You couldn't go to the fucking movies. You couldn't do any of this shit. You couldn't
We were
go
allowed to
on a
do
cruise. You know what I'm saying? You were.
You
A
lived
large
in one of
swath
them
of the
okay
country were not
states.
allowed to. Fuck you, Larry. So, of course, it only makes logical sense
Yes.
that those numbers would be going down. And it's the
100%.
same thing we talked about with Barack Obama and with Donald Trump and whatever, right? These things, it doesn't matter who would have been there. This is how this would have gone, right? Donald Trump, doesn't matter who was the president when the pandemic pops off. When the whole country shuts down, unemployment is going to go through the goddamn roof.
Oh, yeah.
That's how that's going to happen,
Yes.
regardless what your name is, what color you are, what party you belong to. It doesn't matter. It could have been Joe Biden 40 years ago or 2 years ago. The same thing would have happened.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't matter, right? So that's one thing that they're using to kind of try and cover this and be like, it's good. It doesn't matter. Like, everything
all
is
good.
really actually fine.
Live in the pod, eat the bugs.
They are also talking about, and I saw Brian Deese talk about this a lot. Obviously, he said strong jobs gains in this last job report. That's really what he said, strong jobs gains. He also said that we're the only G7 nation whose future growth prospects are stronger today than they were pre-2020. Okay, so again, let's take a second. When the economy is, I don't even want to say crippled, when it is
Artificially
halted,
depressed.
right?
Yeah.
No shit. When you are digging yourself out of a hole, okay, if you start here and you dig a hole, of course you have to go above that to make any type of growth. So of course, yes, this deficit plus the initial growth is going to be a higher number than what the growth was projected here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I took 10th grade math like 5 times. 3 times at least, right? This is simple logic. That's not even math. That's, I guess logic is math, right? But that is the basic, just the simplest of logic right there. If you're digging yourself out of a hole, of course you're projected for more than you were when you were sitting fucking pretty before the pandemic started.
When the economy is a light switch and you turn it off, when you turn the switch back on, you should expect that the light will turn on.
Yes.
And it should not be a surprise to you, and it should not be something that you should grab onto and gloat about it happening, because that's the way it works.
Yes.
That's physics, that's electricity, and that's the economy. If you shut it off and everything goes to net zero, the minute you flick it back on, you should see exponential growth. You should see it start right back up. People should be going back to work. Businesses are coming online. New businesses are coming online. Because you can't forget all the businesses that were completely and utterly destroyed when you shut the lights off.
Yes.
It should definitely be doing this thing. It should, in fact, you should all be offended that it's not coming. We don't have a rate of recovery at like 30% minimum.
And this was just on the 4th, right? This was just on the 4th that this conversation happened. So the
This
12th.
month?
Yes, it's
Oh.
the 12th now,
Oh.
right? It was 8 days ago that this conversation happened. Brian Deese is there. He's asked again, are you sure that the enhanced unemployment benefits do not have any negative effect at all, right? He says, we have historic job growth in context.
In context.
In context to a pandemic, historic job growth. Fucking fantastic, bro. Fantastic. Again, we started at 3%. We are now at just under 6% unemployment. Do we truly have historic job growth? Is that what we are growing as an economy now? Again, the same idea. I like a sponge, I guess, right? If you take a sponge and you squeeze all the water out of it, it's got to grow. It has to grow after that. So yes, in context of from it starting here to growing back to its original size, historic fucking growth. But realistically, that means nothing.
Yeah.
That means absolutely nothing. It means we are on track to get back to where we were before. You know, everything went to shit and we fucked everybody over.
Yep.
We're on track to getting back to there, which is insanity, right?
Yes.
And in the same, he also said those states, this is where they started like the runaround of unemployment, right? And they start to double back on themselves. He also says those states haven't actually canceled unemployment yet. So we can't really calculate, you know, the effect that it's having on the labor market because they haven't canceled it yet. So wait. The question was, is enhanced unemployment benefits negatively affecting the job growth? And then he says, well, they haven't canceled yet, so we don't know. What?
How is this dude in charge of
What
anything?
the fuck are you talking about? And he's the director of the chief economic council or whatever.
Yeah.
What are we saying here? What are we talking about?
What was his first name again? Something Deese?
Brian Deese. Brian Deese.
Because I know we said it during the pre-show, but
Yeah.
not. Oh wait, wrong computer.
And Jen Psaki was asked the same question in the same press conference, right? And this was the former senior advisor to the President of the United States, and now he is the director of the National
Economic
Council. He's the director. He's leading the National Economic Council, and he just said,
We'll show the people.
we don't know whether or not increased unemployment benefits are negatively affecting the labor market because they haven't canceled them yet.
That makes a lot of sense.
And this is the problem with just econometricians. It's just like you never know if like when they bring out this data, are they doing the real work or are they working to confirm their bias?
Yeah, 100%.
And that's like the frustrating thing for me when I watch these. I mean, everybody's watched The Economy. Like it's if like we're having I feel like we keep asking like, oh, like how, when are we gonna get rid of this or that? Like the question is like, when are we gonna return to pre-pandemic times? Like, are we gonna get back to the beginning of the pandemic? And then if they're gonna say no because it's gonna be near impossible, they'll be like, okay, well, do you think that you're standing in the way or enhancing our abilities to get back there? Because that's the question that needs to be answered, right? Because I think the most glaring thing is we have 9.3 million jobs vacant right now, or people looking for jobs, which is just it's astronomical. And like we kind of talked about it, like if you don't think if the job you go back to is your end state, right, and they don't pay you enough, the subsidy that you get from the government is going to allow you to push off going back there, right? And like I get it, it's all mentality that like we have approaching back to work. Like you should want to work for what you're getting, and we're not. And we've normalized being comfortable receiving free money, where like the question's always like you can't like ask why. It's like, hey, I need a living wage. Okay, like we haven't defined what a living wage is, and like why do you deserve a living wage, right? And it was like, oh, you're humanitarian, you want everyone to die, you just want to just start mowing people down. You're just like, wow, we just escalated this conversation really fast when we haven't asked the specifics. So like the most frustrating thing is I read are these reports, right? Like because like September just needs to come, and September will know, right? September, a lot of these things, because we kicked the can, but like that is their foot in the ground where they're like, hey, like our supply chains will be healed, and it will remedy the problem that was like they're saying is artificially pushing up the price or wage prices. But then now that we're in the place where everyone can get the vaccine, like how long are we going to be in a crisis?
Yeah.
Right. So then that's going to give them 4 months really to marinate on giving out everybody the the vaccine.
Yeah, and let's focus on that for just a second. September is when those enhanced unemployment benefits on the federal side go away.
Yes.
Yep.
That is a long, long time,
Yes.
especially when you think about the employer's timeline. That is a ridiculous amount of time. There are going to be how many companies that go under in the next 3.5 months waiting for September to roll around
100%.
and assume at that point that when September rolls around, it's going to be like that light switch and go click, and everybody's going to go back to work.
Right.
Which is probably not going to happen. It's going to take a little bit of time. There's still going to be a period there where, for whatever reason, people might have found new ways to make money. They might have, there's some people might have adapted and changed and overcome and done that, and they may not re-enter the traditional labor force because they found a workaround in the meantime.
Right.
Maybe they're working under the table jobs. Maybe they're doing something on their own. Who knows? It's not like September's going to roll around and everything's just going to be fine again.
Especially because part of this this ideology they have about it, and this is another quote from Brian Deese, right? He's asked about what they can do to help the supply demand, specifically with semiconductors, right? That's been a big thing. Semiconductors, construction, these are like huge things they're talking about. And he said there was an executive order to investigate the supply chain issues, right? And all these things, these investigations, this is being viewed as like the first step, right? And I have an example, proof of that, right?
So, Larry, you sound a little confused because there was actually a task force put together to study
a strike force.
I
swear to God, it's called a strike force.
I don't
swear to God.
I don't like the fact we have czars and we have strike forces.
It's a strike force. I swear to God, it's called a strike force.
Yep. And to study the why we had these supply bottlenecks.
Yes.
The federal government wanted to know why, so we put together a strike force to figure it out. That was real.
There was one in general for the supply-demand issues and one specifically for semiconductors. So this executive order to investigate supply chain issues, he said part of it is because the demand wasn't anticipated. You've got me fucked up because over a year ago, Wall Street Journal was like, motherfuckers are building houses and fixing their shit because they got nothing else to do. So if you're telling me that you didn't know a year ago that this demand was going to increase on the construction side, then you're fucking retarded. Literally retarded. You're actually literally retarded thinking on this. You are thinking at a slowed pace because you can't even track what was happening over a year ago in the construction market. I'm sorry, I put together neoprene pieces. I could have told you we are going to see a continued increased demand in the construction market. I could have told you that at the beginning of the pandemic, right?
Yeah,
so,
I really think that's just a gap from our economy.
They're also, they keep using this term transitory, right? And this was my point for you. They keep using this term transitory. It's temporary. These are just transitory things. These bottlenecks are transitory. It's just until we get, like you said, to September, to this point of when everything is reopened again, right? So if they're not even considering the idea that any of this might be permanent, they're just writing it off. It's transitory. Don't worry about it. It's transitory. It will all go away. It's transitory, right? And I have an example of this because on the 8th, they had two people come in, Samira Fazli and Peter Harrell, to come in and talk about the supply chain report, right? And Samira Fazli said they need to diversify the global supply chain and expand the domestic one. When they asked about proposals for the supply-demand issue, right? First of all, she said, this isn't a bad problem to have. This is not a bad problem to have because it means that we're growing. It means that we're getting back to normal. That all these things, people can't find jobs, businesses are closing. This isn't a bad, I swear to fucking God, she said that. This isn't a bad problem to have, she says. And then she says this report is the start of action to find out what's going on. This report that took 90 days is the start of action. That's what they're doing. Not even a concrete next step of what are we going to do now that we know what the problem is. We see what the issues are because you just took 90 days, 3 months to do an investigation on what the fucking problem is. The next step is, oh, well, this was the start. This is the beginning of action. That's the natural next step, is that this was the start of action.
This is what happens.
This report. So
this is how government works.
We'll get back to you. Right?
We'll circle back.
Even though, again, this was on the 8th, and so now I'll
That's
go.
4 days ago.
I have another one. Just 1 second here.
I'm shocked.
Who are these people? These are the people that are trying to run every aspect of our lives.
On the 4th, Jen Psaki was asked the supply-demand issues in construction. What are the supplies, right? What's the holdup? Specifically, what are the bottlenecks here, right? And she's like, lumber, I don't know, we'll have more for you next week. So then 4 days later, when they come back to explain the supply-demand issues, they're like, we got to diversify. We got to build back better in America. We need to source more things here. We're going to invest in infrastructure. Maybe if we can get an infrastructure bill passed, we're going to add things in there to build infrastructure to help us export more things. If we can get an infrastructure bill passed.
People wonder why I have a problem with centralized control.
This is the answer. This is the solution. Is a report. This is the start. Is right here. That's the key. I swear to fucking God, the leaders of our economic ideology, the leaders of our economy, this is the next step. This is action, is this report here. And we don't really know whether or not unemployment is having a negative effect because they haven't even stopped giving out yet. So we can't even measure, the growth before and afterwards and blah, blah, blah. Regardless of the near 2% decrease in active labor market participation, right? We can't measure whether or not these are having any type of effect.
We can't
say for sure. And so this is when Jen Psaki is asked, right? This is Jen Psaki regarding the effects of the increased unemployment on the labor market, right?
A bit of a shift in tone here because last month the president was pretty adamant that he did not believe that these enhanced unemployment benefits were playing a role or factoring into people's decisions not to get back into the jobs market. Today, though, he's underscoring that these benefits are simply temporary, set to expire in 90 days. So which is it, yes or no, does the president believe that these unemployment benefits are playing a role here?
Well, I think we shouldn't lose sight of some basic facts here, which is that those governors who have made the decision, as they have every right to do, to pull back on the unemployment benefits, or not accept them, I should say accurately, that hasn't even taken effect in any state across the country. So in terms of how we're evaluating the impact, we haven't even seen the impact yet. That takes effect in June. It is important for people to understand factually that the president, no one from the administration has ever proposed making these permanent or doing it over the long term. And sometimes I think that was just an effort to make that clear in the public. So we understand there's politics at play here. That's okay.
Nope.
Every governor is going to make their own decision. At the
Not
end
politics.
of the day, what we see as the biggest driving factor is vaccines and individuals being vaccinated, feeling safe to go back to workplaces, the fact that child care centers have rehired, that teachers have gone back to work. Those are all positive signs. And at the end of the day, the president and this administration has created more jobs than any president, any administration in modern American history. So that's kind of how we see the jobs.
But based on the data, do you believe that these benefits are having any kind of impact in people deciding not to maybe re-enter the job force right now?
Well,
It's
again,
555
I think that's a really difficult thing to analyze, given we have created a historic number of jobs in the last 4 months.
Historic.
More than any president in modern American history.
Nope.
So, and the jobs, the UI benefits haven't even been pulled back in any state. So it's a question I'm sure we can have a discussion about in the next couple of months as we see what the impact is on different states or if that's a factor. But we think the biggest factors overall are more people getting vaccinated, more people being comfortable and feeling safe going out into the workforce. And that's where we feel there's going to be an encouraging upward trend.
I guess I'm trying to understand what happened in the last month, though, because last month you said you didn't see any indication of that when looking through the data.
I don't think we can evaluate the data that hasn't been applied in states across the country yet. And what we're really talking about from state to state is governors making a decision to pull back on accepting unemployment benefits for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. That's it. It hasn't even started yet. So I would leave it to all of you and your outside analysts to decide whether that is a big factor in terms of economy and data or whether that is a political discussion we're having. Go ahead.
Okay, so can I just say right off the bat here?
Yeah.
What the argument she is making is that because we haven't stopped yet, you don't have the final end numbers to prove how detrimental and devastating this decision that we made without no vote of the people or anything. You don't have the data to prove us wrong just yet because we haven't shut it off quite yet.
By that same ideology, we should just wait 2 more years
Yeah,
to
why not?
find out what the true effects of COVID-19 were on the economy, because it's been 2 years, and because it hasn't been 2 years since the pandemic, we don't really have a true depiction of what the effects were, because we haven't seen what happened in the 2 years naturally afterwards.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. That doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
Yeah, she's talking about whether or not this is we need to know if we're having a discussion about data or politics here. No, you're the only one that is having a political conversation here. We are looking out at the numbers that come in reliably every single month. And you are dodging that because we haven't shut the fucking faucet off yet. You can't accurately tell us how much damage you have done because we haven't stopped yet. That's exactly what she's saying. And then she's twisting that in a political manner to say, like, well, we just don't know yet. Like, you can't tell me how much I've fucking ruined your life and how much damage
We
we've
can't
caused to the
calculate
country.
it yet. We're not sure.
Because you haven't stopped.
What's your take, Larry?
I don't know if I'm mad at her or the reporter or just myself. I can't like, so okay, let's start. This isn't on the topic, but it's on the topic because she said it. How does Joe Biden get credit for jobs that were only lost due to COVID? And then we get it back, and he's brought more jobs than
any other president in history.
That's
baby.
such an aggressive statement. That statement,
Yes.
that broke me. Secondly, the reporter. I'm going to her. The question to be asked is, what is the indicator or indicators that will allow us to stop giving extra money out? If there is no set of circumstances that would warrant stopping giving the extra unemployment insurance, then we can't you can't tie the economy. Thirdly, I don't understand the hoops I just had to follow her through to not answer. I don't even know if she answered the question. I don't know what she said. I can't even you guys are talking about it, and I'm still trying to mentally process it. I literally thought you started the clip over because I felt like she was just saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
I literally was sitting there did he just restart the clip? Did I stroke out? Did I miss it? Did I zone out?
The closest thing you can draw from that as an answer is we don't know yet, which is not an answer. That's not, because it's not true. That's just a lie. To say we don't know yet is boldly, it's a bold lie. And so that's the closest thing you can come to with an answer is just we don't know yet.
So I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt and say, we just don't know how much bad we did just yet because we haven't stopped doing the damage yet. So once we're done, then we could tell you how bad we fucked up.
And so, the last thing, if we don't know what let's say that hypothetically the money's not the reason people are going. Just say that people, the fact that people are making $3,600 doing nothing is not a reason they're not trying to work. If we don't know what the effect of this money is or was, how can we warrant injecting $6 trillion more through an infrastructure bill?
Hey-o.
This is where, again, I'm not even anti anything up front. I'm just trying to understand the reasoning, right? And our media can't report, and no one's. And this is probably my biggest frustration. When Donald Trump was in, everybody watched the news, whether you agreed with him or not. Now that he's out, no one's watching the news anymore. So no one's even there to ask her questions anymore. If that was Kayleigh McEnany, which was probably the smartest human being ever, we would have. CNN be like, "Yo, she scratched her nose in the middle of that." Was just a nod at the 3rd century Nazis that were there that were trying to put everyone. I was just like, "What just happened here?" But she's gallivanting through just random statements and just random isms, random facts, random things. I get so frustrated with her.
She don't even pull open the binder anymore. She just goes.
She knows.
She's just let me think about that for a second. Okay, I'm ready.
Freestyle.
Yeah, she's just going now. I know she's just going.
I don't know how they're ever going to replace her, man. She's too good at her job.
With the black girl, that's the only. I don't remember what her name was.
And she was so bad. Oh my gosh, she was floundering that one day she got up there.
Oh, God, they can't afford to get rid of Jen Psaki.
Trenton sent me a
she's
voice
the only
message.
one keeping things together, man.
Trenton
Or
sent me a voice
Kamala.
message. Should we play it?
Oh, Trenton did?
God.
Yep, just to embarrass him, see what he said.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Should we do it?
How long is it?
6 seconds.
Oh,
Let's
it's
do it.
Okay,
here we
let's hear
go.
it. Here you go, Trent.
I might have to bleep this.
Dude, my fucking cousin is getting married.
Oh,
Oh,
Trent's cousin's getting married.
there you go.
Shout
Little
out
baby
Trent's
Isaiah's
cousin.
getting married.
Shout out Jim.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be really embarrassing. I really wanted it to be really embarrassing. That's the only reason I did it. He says a lot of raw shit. I thought it was going to be maybe even just him singing. That happens frequently. But yeah, no, I'm a little bit disappointed.
Well, now that
Who
I
else
know
is
that
there?
you get those, I'm gonna have to get you some of that.
Yeah.
Oh man, here we go.
No.
Larry's got to bounce.
No, I have another clip that we'll play
The
after
bladder
this
is
too.
full.
That was Jen Psaki was asked about. I think it's again about the unemployment insurance, and then about Anthony Fauci.
Oh, the Fauci dog.
Oh, it's just about the COVID origins and the Fauci
Sorry.
emails.
Oh, that's good.
So
My dogs had to pee, and they would have peed
no,
on the carpet.
no, you're fine.
Oh.
But she was pressed one more time on the increased unemployment insurance, and so we can play that video as well. That was after she was asked specifically about what the supply issues were, and so we can play that issue and see.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, COVID.
What do you
origins.
got for us, Jen? I'm really curious what you got to say about why we have a supply shortage.
Okay, are you
Probably has
ready?
to do with something with Trump. Oh, hey, baby.
Enhanced unemployment benefits. You said that you can't really make a determination because no states have actually cut them off yet, the states that are pulling out of the program early. But if nothing has changed, shouldn't you be able to maintain the president's pretty unequivocal position last month that they are not encouraging people to stay home?
Well, if we had that concern, we would be ending them. We're not. I mean, there's still 7 million people who are out of work, right? And we're talking about $300 benefits for 3 more months. I think the point I was trying to make, and I think Brian was trying to make, is that the governors who have made the decision, which they have every right to do, to pull back on these benefits, are really talking about having them for 6 weeks or 8 weeks less than we would already intend to have them. So I think the question is, do you think Americans, given 7 million are still out of work or more than that, could benefit from 8 more weeks or 10 more weeks of these $300 unemployment benefits? Our view is they can and they should, and that's an extra helping hand we can give to millions of people across this country. Some governors disagree. That's okay. At the end of the day, in early September, these benefits will no longer be a part of the plan. Thank you. Go ahead.
And there's this interesting thing that she's doing, right? She's almost like tipping her hand a little bit.
Yeah, a little
And
bit.
she's done it twice. And I don't know if they're receiving questions about it or reports and I just don't know about it. But twice she referenced, well, it's not forever. Like, it's only temporary. It's only this 6 weeks longer than we were going to do it anyway. It's only until September. No one is asking you about doing it forever. No one.
No one.
It's like, we're not asking you about what is it going to be like next year. All 3 of those reporters who asked you specifically, what are the negative effects that it's having on the labor market right now? Is this the possible reason why people are not going back to work? Is this potentially the reason? Is it having a negative effect? And all 3 times, right, or both these times, it was we don't know yet, and also it's just for a little while.
And also,
Damn you for asking.
she doesn't ever say, like, she asks, does it hurt? Jen Psaki never says, no, they're not hurting. She's going out of her way to not say the phrase, like, these are not the reason people going back to, like, are
Yes.
not going back to work.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting that she's working so hard to avoid, like the bite. Like, it's just like, hey, like, did you eat the cookies? Be like, like, the cookie's not there, and we'll work to remedy the fact that it's not there. And I think it's a tragedy that's not there. But did you eat the cookie? But I feel like there's a lot of cookies in there. A lot were eaten through and I'm just like, it's weird what they're not saying, and that's what gives you the skeeves. No one's, again, love him or hate him, Donald Trump was just an aggressively overly straight shooter. He was never either smart enough or he never wanted to ever make you wonder what he was thinking. To the furthest extent of the law,
Right.
He would just tell you exactly what he's thinking. Unfortunately, through Twitter, at
Yep.
all times of the dead, with just the absolute disregard for people's emotional responses.
Disregard for human life.
But 100%.
He was just bodying people all the time.
Oh,
Killer.
and I
Killer.
miss him on Twitter so much. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, again, he was at least funnier. I don't know. Like, and I blame our media. We don't have a strong media, and like, I feel like Fox is working too hard to just like they're working. I feel like they're working too hard to make the meme of it, right? Like I feel like they're just like, yeah, they're like, hey, they're doing something bad, but it's like more memey. The Democrats, like Brian Stelter. I don't know if you guys saw him on C-SPAN the other day, but he got fucking crushed.
Really?
Did he?
Oh yeah, you can Google it. Like people were calling on, be like CNN's the biggest perpetrator. Like you're an actual liar. Like you're a propaganda artist. Like people were just like levying into him, which was funny for him because I dislike him specifically.